and you are watching another Blewett Blitz film review. He has that ability to, trust me, he definitely does. Just his ability to catch balls outside of his frame, his leaping ability, his ability to hang in the air, his yak ability, it's all there. Lowers his helmet, low man wins, bang, rocks the guy.
Hall running free, Brees Hall inside the 10, he's gonna score!
The corners all do their job. You know, if you look at the picture right here, lock.
3rd and 1. Stevens always drilled. What a great defensive play.
I don't try to Monday morning quarterback any of the reviews I do, and I'll try to be honest with a lot of the things I put up. And you are watching / listening to another edition of Blewett Blitz. Kyle, before we get into any football, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, man. Like I said, Giants week only comes around once every couple of years, and when it does, it's extra juice for me. It got to the point in the game where I was just trying to be okay with, man, we lost to the Danny DeVito New York Giants. I was just trying to be okay with it, but it was really hard to stomach. And the fact that we came back and beat them in that game, and just to see all the Giants fans crying, to watching the YouTube live streams of the Giants team afterwards and seeing all the players despondent and stuff, watching the videos of, the Giants fans that are doing this stupid crap, celebrating in the stadium, and then they're crying afterwards. That was glorious. That made my day. And, so I'm doing pretty good right now.
You're just here to hold my water. It's a little bit of inside joke. I don't know if you saw that comment yet, Kyle. We had somebody talking shit the other stream on about you on the other stream, so I decided I had to throw it out there. So Kyle's a water holder.
Someone said that? I didn't even.
You're a water holder. You're a water holder for the show. So no, I have to.
Well, it's called Blitz for a reason.
Exact opposite. Kyle carries the show. So we always appreciate Kyle. But new setup.
Who said that? I want to know who said it.
I don't know. It's gonna be John David 128789345.
Of course, somebody behind the screen. Guys.
Yeah, somebody behind the screen. But new setup. I am looking to improve a lot of the audio and video quality. The video quality is nothing yet, but I'm gonna get a camera. New mic coming, Kyle. This thing behind me is gonna get hung up. The picture is gonna get hung up. Another thing is gonna get hung up. So we're having a bunch of improvements as prompted by Ryan Delaney from Jets Talk, who, looking at his setup, I'm like, I got to step up my shit. So first step in stepping up my shit. First stream from the new office, Kyle. So you should feel delighted that you're part of the first stream for the office. So, but yeah, with that game too, and I'm glad I didn't go. I was supposed to actually go with my wife and my brother-in-law and my sister. Thank God I did not go to that game, Kyle, because there were certain points in that game, man, where it was just brutal to watch. And it's like, oh, don't worry, it's just one score. I'm like, have you seen this team score? Like, when do you see this team score? And then, like, the penalties, dude, the Clemens offside, the JJ penalty. I don't know about you, Kyle, but at the end of the game, I was screaming at my TV. Quincy Williams at the end of the game, I don't know if you saw what I did, but after that screen pass that is blown up by Q and Quincy stands in Barkley's face and is jumping up and down, staring in his eyes. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, we know there's taunting penalties in the NFL, and he's standing there after already getting two 15-yard penalties, and you're going to stand there and jump in the dude's face in overtime? And what if it's a 15-yard penalty, and now they get a first down?
Quincy got two in this game? I know he got the one on Wandale Robinson. What was the second one?
He got the one where he was getting blocked by the offensive lineman, and he swung at him. He, hit him in the face.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Okay, yeah, so we swung at a guy. He got a penalty for that, and then he gets the penalty on Robinson, which is a bang-bang play. That one I understand. But then after all of that to happen, now you're going to jump in a guy's face after a screen is blown up and hopefully not get a taunting penalty. But I was screaming at my TV, and, like, my dog is sitting there. He's like, yo, you're usually, pretty chill here. And he's looking at me like I just murdered somebody. So I'm like, tell my dog to relax. My wife's, like, pissed at me. So I'm fucking screaming at the Jets. So I'm kind of happy I wasn't there. Shitty conditions, all that. Obviously, a win is a win. And I get that, but at a certain point, you want to see some of these wins be maybe a little bit easier. Should we have almost barely squeaked by the Giants with Tommy DeVito, whatever his name is, at quarterback. No. Should we have been in a situation where the Broncos, they had the ball with a touchdown to win it type of situation in that game? No, I don't think they should have been. So there's some situations where they got to clean up some of their shit, and that's what we'll discuss. But Kyle did break that he is going to the Chargers game, Kyle, next week. So got to be excited about that, because there were some other people on the other stream saying that you just don't want to go because you don't want to spend the money. So Kyle, people are coming at Kyle in the last couple of weeks. I appreciate it somewhat, but not too much. Don't go too hard on Kyle. It's all in the script. It's all going to work out for a Super Bowl. Hey man, listen, like could you have written a script like this in Hollywood, Kyle? Would they even accept your script if they said, hey, we're going to get this quarterback after all of these years of despair. He's going to tear his shit in week 1, 4 snaps in. And then he's going to come back in week 18 to beat the Patriots, to send the Jets to 10-7, to go on a historic Super Bowl run and win the Super Bowl. What was it, 31-20 against the Niners, like McCall Hardman predicted? Who, by the way, everybody was talking shit about the Jets last week in terms of McCall Hardman had like 1 punt return for 40 yards. Did anybody talk about the muff punt return that McCall Hardman had? He fumbled the ball away this week. I didn't hear about it a lot. Just saying.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Weird.
Funny how that works sometimes. Yeah, I mean, like, dude, Rodgers' legacy is already cemented as one of the greats of all time. But, when you start to get into that multiple Super Bowl territory, I mean, his stats already speak for themselves. I mean, like, he's got, in terms of quarterback rating, it's like right up there as like one of the highest, lowest interception ratio. There's a lot to be desired there with his playoff record. But if he were to win a Super Bowl coming off a torn Achilles, that's magical stuff right there. And, it's hard to say he's not like, 2 or 3 after that. I mean, like, he'd have to get really serious consideration. I mean, Brady, it's going to be hard for anyone to like really overtake Brady, and like, if it's just, rings and stuff, obviously Montana's there as well. But, there's nobody here who's going to say that Rodgers is not more talented than either of those players and stuff too. So it's a fun conversation. And in terms of what you're saying about scripts and things like this, I mean, like, it would just be so cool for Jets fans, man. Like, anyway, I don't think I have too much more to say about that.
We deserve it.
Do we deserve it? Yes. But
no, we do, dude. We do. At a certain point, Kyle, like, I was sitting there, and even like with the whole Rodgers stuff and him coming in the Hard Knocks and stuff, I'm like, I don't want to buy too much into it. But then I'm like, at a certain point, every single fan base has that moment where they turn around, the Cubs win the World Series, or the Red Sox, or whatever fucking team it may be that breaks that streak. I was like, listen, it's been already 13 years, the longest drought in sports, all this shit. Nothing can go wrong. Like, I was kind of like, let that trickle in. Like, nothing can happen. Like, we'll be fine. Don't be such a pessimist. Fucking four snaps in, I'm like, okay, this shit, like, we're just tested to an all-time level here, our new level. So,
and there's obviously what, 12 or so teams or something like that haven't ever won a Super Bowl, but but then there's a good amount of those teams that have at least been to one. But then when you look at some of those teams that either haven't been to one at all, and it's like, okay, well, the Jaguars, the Texans, I think, are 2 teams that come to mind, but they haven't been in the league nearly as long as the Jets. So, I mean, when you start to think about it like that, I mean, like, the Jets, I mean, like, it's a really long drought of not even being to a Super Bowl, right? Like, at least the Bills, despite having 4 losses, have been to some in recent memory. Like, the Falcons came close.
Would you rather win none or go to 4 and lose all 4?
Good question. I think there is something still pretty cool for going to 4 in a row, and I think a lot of Bills fans take a lot of pride in that. Yeah. I know certainly that my brother, as a Bills fan, has used that as a talking, bragging point. So I think that you'd rather go to 4, as much as painful as that could be, and as much as people like to dunk on them for that. Hey, there is something to be said for winning a conference championship, I guess.
Just talking about Super Bowls and when the Jets eventually get there, I proved my point to my wife this weekend that if the Jets were ever to be in the Super Bowl, I cannot be around other functional human beings. Like, I need to be with a bunch of psychopath Jets fans, because the way I was losing my shit to the Giants, week 7, week 8, whatever it is, she recognizes that I cannot be around people now.
And the Super Bowl is such a casual thing. It's like, the people who don't watch football all year will watch the Super Bowl, And I agree with you. You know, I'm
Yeah.
sure that there'd be a bunch of people that want to watch it with me too. And it's like, yeah, man, sorry.
Blitzcrew says $5 super chat, which we appreciate. Which Kyle has said for 2 months now that he's going to log in the next stream. He's got to be.
I
able to
can't log in without you. That's the problem.
You just gotta prompt me. You just gotta shoot me a text or something. I'm busy doing a bunch of other stuff. So he says, curious your thoughts if issue more hack or more Zach versus Hackett play calling. Hack def was not great, but it seems better to me when playbook expanded. I'm about expanded. It's just like there's certain situations where I'm not loving Hackett's play calling. There's a game where it's a run pass. There's a this game you have 3rd and 1 situation, you go empty. It's like what are we doing here? Then there was multiple other times where during the game, like even on that play where Brees dropped that ball in the flat, that play was just 4 verticals and a check down. And there's a play earlier on, like a couple of drives before that, where it's just 4 verticals and a check down. So there's not a lot of creativity, and I'm not one of those guys that say, okay, let's just do a reverse, let's just throw out some generic creative type of stuff. But you don't really see a lot of functional pre-snap motion that like actually builds into something. You don't really see a lot of rubs or clear outs or like divides or scissors, or there's not a lot of creativity. Again, in have-to-habit situations, you're just running 4 verticals versus a team who's blitzing a lot. It's like, how does that make sense? So I would say it's a combination. I know a lot of people just want to put it on one thing or the other. I think it's a lot of Hackett, it's a lot of Zach. And there's also the problem of every time we get to the red zone, there's a false start, there's a holding, there's a drop pass, there's something else. So, and all of that being also, I want you to also note that the fact that the Jets have played a lot of hard defenses, right? Like we're not going to have a stretch like this again where you're playing the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Bills, the Pats, the Cowboys, the Giants who have a good defense. So there's going to be a point where they're going to see some lesser defenses and score some more points. And even in this game, Zach threw for what, like 250 or something like that?
I think it was 240.
But like, look at the game, last week, or with the Eagles game, where we get into the red zone and there's an illegal blindside block on Lazard. Like, could that have been a touchdown? So I think it's legitimately a combination of Zach, of Hackett, and of penalties, and that's not necessarily a good way to answer it because maybe you just want that one person. But I see it being all of those guys, and there's decisions that there's some times where Zach is an issue with the offense. That play to was it Gibson where he has Gibson immediately open on like it's a screen or he like bubbles and he doesn't throw the ball right there. There's a play where Ruckert's running up the seam open and he waits to throw the ball, and then that ball is thrown on too short because he gets hit at the he gets hit as he's throwing the ball. There's the play where Garrett Wilson on that play where it's a sail concept. You have the vertical from the number 1. The 2 was Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson ran the corner, and then you had Brees Hall on the flat, and then Brees Hall turned the flat up into a go. If Zach Wilson throws that ball on time, Brees Hall's not even there. Garrett Wilson's wide open on the sideline, running an outside breaking route with outside leverage, and he's Zach Wilson's second read, and Zach Wilson gets his eyes there pretty much immediately, and then he just decides to drift back in the pocket for an extra 3 steps and then throw the ball. So why didn't he throw the ball there? So there's a combination, right? Like that's what I'm pointing out some bad things about Hackett. I'm pointing out some bad things about penalties. I'm pointing out some bad things about Zach because, again, I think it's a legitimate combination.
Yeah, and I guess to be here to carry your water or whatever you're sipping in your mug right now. I do agree with that pretty much, and it's going to be curious. One of the things, like the NFL is such a long season. And is Rodgers going to come back at a certain point? It's very much an unknown. I do want to say that I don't, especially with the offensive line and how it's looking like it's going to be the rest of the year. I mean, like there's just so many killer injuries there. And even some of the guys we were hoping were going to look great haven't necessarily looked great. Becton's kind of on any given week. There's been some pretty good weeks and there's been some pretty bad weeks. This week wasn't super impressive. I don't think Rodgers really should be playing because, it was always a multiple gear thing in the Jets' mind. And even he said that. I don't want to throw the guy out there if he really can't move. So, that's really something to consider. And he's even said that himself on the last McAfee appearance. But it is going to be really interesting to see how this team starts to develop and, the chemistry building and, because it does seem like they're all, and granted the Bills defense week 1. They didn't have Von Miller, but they did have Milano and Trey White. And the Bills defense was really good for the first couple weeks, especially before Milano went down. But the Jets offense was, aside from a big Breece Hall run, relatively bad in that game. Zach didn't look great in that game. That was maybe one of his worst games this year. It does seem like he's made steady improvements throughout the year. A lot of people who were crushing him in this game, this was not the game to crush him. And those are the people who were going out and defending him in this game. I think were pretty much spot on. And like, listen, he had his faults in this game and stuff, but it is such a clear, it's not just that one game against the Cowboys. It's very evident that he is so much better in the pocket. He seems so much better under pressure. He's so much better from rebounding. Like, we saw it from his second start in his career, how much those 4 interceptions against the Patriots, 3 in the first half, his second game of his career, affected him. So there's clear growth with him, but there's just so many things that aren't clicking in this offense yet. And it is a new system for him. And, Hackett is still figuring out what's working with him and stuff. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that aren't working right now, but, we'll see towards the end of the season how much things can improve, because it does seem like, they are, like Salah says, oh, we feel like we're right there and stuff. And I tend to agree that, like, hey, listen, I don't think it's that far off. Like, even though you said that the whole concept wasn't super imaginative, the 4 verts and then the check down to Breece Hall. If Breece catches that ball, he's got that linebacker beat for sure. Who I think it was Michael McFadden in coverage. He's got a lot of separation on him. All the defenders who are on that side, besides the safeties or the safety, they're all running with their backs turned. And Breece is so good in open field. Will you give him that much open space? I mean, he's definitely going for a first down easily. But how
he's
much
either gone or field goal? It's probably field goal range.
Yeah, but like, could Breece, like, think about the intro to this show where he took house call against the Packers. You give him so much space, like he's so creative in the open field, and he now seems like he's got his legs under him. Does seem like he's more comfortable with his knee now. A play like that, just like the check down earlier in the game, could potentially go to the house when you have a special player like that. So, they also have gotten, just stupid mistakes, cleaning some of that stuff up. It's just interesting, like how much 1 or 2 little plays in a certain situation can really change the dynamic of a game. So I don't know. Very long.
And in certain situations, no. But you can also blame the receivers. Like there's plenty of times in this game where I pause and I'm like, who is open here? Like nobody's open. Garrett's getting doubled. Who else is open? Cobb's not getting, Cobb was in this game, but Cobb doesn't get open. Lazard doesn't get open. Gibson doesn't actually get open. And it's funny, Kyle, because now we're hearing all week on Twitter that it's a sudden thing that people figured out Lazard doesn't have good hands. It's something we've been talking about forever, dude. And like Zach Wilson threw that beautiful ball to Cobb. It pressure in his face. He slides up. He slides to the left, steps up in the pocket. Guy hitting him, throws a ball in the fucking pressure right into the bucket. Lazard drops it. It's like, what are you doing, dude? And the one play,
and that play, his arm angle was like really, really, really over the top there. And it's like you do notice, like, one thing you noticed a lot of it in this game. And I know Nania put a couple clips out on Twitter, X, whatever it's called now. A lot of altering of his arm angles in this game, and he tried doing so much of that earlier in his career, and sometimes it led to just really bad, inaccurate passes. But
he did it to Breece on the touchdown.
Yeah. Exactly. So he's doing more of it now, and the balls are actually kind of getting there and stuff. And again, you see some of the reasons why this kid was taken second overall. So I hate to say it because you seem like, oh, you're one of these people backtracking and stuff, but it's like there is a part of me that is a little bit at this point excited to see him play. I admittedly don't have a lot of faith that he's ever going to be a great player, but when you have talent the way he does, there is that chance that he could turn things around because he has that talent. And it does get me a little bit excited to watch him play. Like, I would not be as excited if Tim Boyle was taking snaps, or like you posed a great question last week about Mike White. I'm sorry. Like, Mike White, he theoretically maybe could give the Jets a better chance week in, week out to win than Zach Wilson this year. I mean, that's to be determined, but I'm not going to be as excited to watch Mike White play.
Yeah. And then talking about Lazard too, you with the Lazard play, you also have the play where he gets hit on the slant and he makes like the most unathletic play ever and just falls on the ball. I said in the review, it almost looks like he catches the ball and just gets sniped in the back of the head. He's just like a dead fish in midair. It's like 9 out of 10 receivers. What do, Kyle? They catch that ball. They're going to turn to their shoulder so the shoulder could absorb the ground and not the ball.
Yeah.
Lazard, he catches it and he just fucking straight body. Like he looks like a 5-year-old basically like jumping onto like a new mattress. It's just like, what are you doing, dude? So Lazard, not his best game, and we knew this was going to be a problem with him separating. There's another play on a slant where Zach has to force it into him, and Lazard doesn't fight for the ball and it gets deflected. But yeah,
they do need to play Malik Taylor more for sure. Like, I mean, yeah, and like so I don't know what corner he was going against when he beat him at the end, but it was and you know so much more about receiver releases than me, but he had a really great release off the line of scrimmage, and he created that separation there at the end, and they got lucky that Zach couldn't step into that throw, because if Zach does step into the throw, it could be a huge maybe, yeah. But so I mean, in that situation there, where all you need is a field goal to win the game, it ended up being perfect for the Jets. But kudos to Taylor there, because he did create some separation. I feel like he had a couple other, one or two other really good routes in this game too. So, someone like Cobb, who, as we said so many times in the offseason, cool, being wide receiver 5, it makes Rodgers happy, cool. Cobb does do certain things nice, in terms of scramble drill and things like that. But in terms of just creating straight separation, not necessarily his thing. And the Jets do need more of it, because they're definitely not getting it from some guys. So, why not play him a little bit more, see what you can get.
Yeah, we'll go to our next super chat, which I think is like a 2-part super chat from Craig Skognamligio. Skognamligio. I don't know how to say that. Sure. YTD opposing QB average 21 for 33, 184 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Zach's average is 18 for 31, 171 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick head-to-head versus Mahomes, Allen.
I think YTD means year-to-date. So
year-to-date.
I think he's including like the average of all the QBs that Zach went against this year as opposed to Zach's stats.
Okay, and then the second part of it is versus Mahomes, Hurts, and Allen, them 25 for 39, 64 completion percentage, 227 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. Zach 20 for 31, 66%. 100. I'm a little bit lost here just because I don't know. Yeah,
I think his point is that Zach's stats, he's had less turnovers, and turnovers are so huge in the NFL. I mean, listen, a lot of the Jets win against the Eagles was because of turnovers. They won the turnover battle. The Jets win against the Bills was because they won the turnover battle. I mean, they clearly blew those teams out of the water in terms of they didn't move the ball as well as either of those teams. They weren't as good in the red zone as either of those teams, I don't think, but they did clearly win the turnover battle in each of those 2 games. And the Chiefs, right? They won the turnover battle in that game too, and probably should have won that game. So I think his point is that Zach is, in terms of offensive production, he's on par with those guys, and he's not turning the ball over the way that they did in the head-to-head games.
Now, with that being said, and I know people, and I think we talked about this last week, like regardless of what the stats are, Zach Wilson, even if the stats are whatever, he went 20 for 30, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. That stat line looks a lot different this year than it does last year, if that makes sense. The stat line doesn't look different, but the way he did it looks different, right? Like, regardless of what the stats actually are, he's definitely playing a lot different than maybe the stats indicate. Now, with that being said, this game was a C or a C- game for me. This wasn't a good game by Zach Wilson by any means. No. This was not the Dallas game where he was overcome. Like, there was plays. There's a play I talked about Conklin. Conklin's his first read. He comes off of Conklin very quickly. There's a play where he's late to Garrett Wilson. There's another play he's late to Garrett Wilson. The play where he took a sack, we had to try to chuck the ball. Can't have that. There were plays where you want to see him get the ball out, internal clock. They're blitzing. He does get the ball. He takes a sack. Like, there was definitely bad from him. But then again, there was 4 vertical plays. There's no creativity. You had penalties. So, but with all that being said, I'm not going to say that he outdueled those guys 1-to-1, even though they sucked that game. And that's obviously a big part of the Jets defense. But we have to, with this all being said, we have to acknowledge at the same point that quarterback or wins are not a quarterback stat. And Zach Wilson did not necessarily win these games. And I talked about in the stream, special teams, Kyle. If we didn't have special teams playing well, probably don't win the Bills game. We probably don't win this game, or we don't win this game, right? We don't win this game. We probably don't win the Bills game. The Broncos game, if you don't have a muffed punt turn into a field goal and then a safety on the Broncos, do you even win that game? So it's a combination of special teams. It's a combination of the defense and Zach Wilson. Now, Zach Wilson's not necessarily losing them games, but at a certain point, we cannot be as bad as we are in the red zone. And I may be wrong. I may have read it wrong. I believe it was on Twitter. The Jets are, I think, like an all-time low, even in like their franchise record for third down percentage right now. I know that the last game, as per it was Nanio or Rivka, they were 0 for 4 on third down with 2 yards or less to go. So you're terrible in the red zone. You're terrible on third down. You got to pick your shit up. That's while acknowledging the fact that they play tough defenses, but they have to figure something out, Kyle, because it's been brutal.
Yeah, and it just seems like whether they go pass or run on third down, neither seems to be working at this point in time. And some of it is just such silly stuff like, okay, why run Dalvin Cook in a 3rd and short situation? Like, that's on coaching and play calling. Okay. Zach Wilson, why did you return into rookie Zach Wilson dirting a ball when you have a guy wide open who could easily turn that up? I mean, like, it's so those are self-inflicted wounds right there. So yeah, you're not going to win in the NFL. Third down is the money down. I mean, like, literally, like, you go to your best play calls in the sheet there. It's one of the reasons why, guys like Tom Brady were so good.
Best plays in the sheet, 4 verticals. Fuck it.
Yeah. 4 verticals when not only did you say the team was blitzing a lot, but I mean, even when they weren't, like, or, who the hell was blocking Dexter Lawrence? And by the way, like, there were so many times when he was singled up on the center and he was not getting help from the guard. There was one time really late in the game. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong about this, but I feel confident in saying this. The play where he had the big pass to Lazard, where he boots out of the pocket. It's just Dexter Lawrence one-on-one with the center new man, which, by the way, there was Dexter Lawrence's mic'd up trash talk was kind of funny. And Lakin doesn't even look that way. Like, Lakin is kind of looking to give support with Kayvon Thibodeau when he's singled up with Mekhi Becton. Why are you worried about that when you got Dexter Lawrence, who's immediately to your inside? Yeah. Didn't even look his way. So big mistake there by good old Lakin, if I'm not mistaken, on that particular play. But heads up play to Zach, bootlegging out to the right. I saw this one guy, I'm not trying to call anyone out. Like, one guy on Twitter, I won't say a name or whatever, said, oh, when are we going to start talking about Zach Wilson being elite, moving to his right, throwing the ball? I'm like, what are you talking about, man? Like, if we're talking about college Zach Wilson, sure. I mean, like, he was really good at that. But I mean, like, Zach Wilson, so many times earlier in his career just looked to boot out. And how many times did he boot outside the pocket, look to create something, and oftentimes it just ended in disaster? I mean, elite, come on, what are we? That's silly talk. We have seen some moments, but not enough yet. Not enough before we can even say he's good in that area yet.
We have another follow-up from Craig for $5. I appreciate all the $5 super chats, Craig.
Thanks, Craig.
He said it's head-to-head against all QB average and head-to-head against the big 3 better, and he passes the eye test on film. Big 3 better, and he passes the eye test on film. I'm assuming this is all positive stuff about Zach Wilson. All the numbers were a little bit confusing there, Craig, but was he?
I think he's just saying his numbers. His numbers were better than the big 3. And again, was he asked to do as much as either of those guys in any of those games? No, he wasn't. So again, Craig, so I think what Joe's point is that put Zach Wilson in those guys' situations, and if they made Zach Wilson throw as many times as those guys did in his respective games, do you think Zach Wilson is going to have as low as turnover numbers as he did? But then again, like, in a game like this, which again, he was not going against an elite quarterback in this game or whatever. There have been certain games where Zach Wilson did throw the ball a lot. I mean, it was 36 attempts this game, and no turnovers. How many did he have against the Eagles? He had a lot of pass attempts against the Eagles for sure. It was in the mid 30s, I think. And again, no turnovers there either, if I'm not mistaken. So I understand Craig's point for sure. And again, Craig, thanks for the super chat. But I mean, the Jets are trying to. They're winning. They're winning most of these games based on special teams and defense. It's not really what the offense is doing. Zach has had some nice moments here or there. The one stat that's really been trotted out this week is that Zach Wilson has more fourth quarter comebacks than anyone in the league. And like he's solely in first place there, which is a cool stat because one of the main knocks on Zach Wilson his whole career is when the chips are down, Zach Wilson's going to fold. He just doesn't have it in him. He doesn't have that it factor. And it's like, okay, when you look at fourth quarter comebacks, maybe there is something there. Maybe the story hasn't yet been written on Zach Wilson's confidence and whether or not he's a baller. So that's a cool, I guess, somewhat promising stat. But anyway,
What was your reaction at the end of the game when they when they threw the flag? Which, by the way, if you look at other angles, I know
You're talking about the pass interference flag?
No, just in general, like that whole sequence, like
when the Giants
into overtime.
Scored?
Yeah, into overtime, dude. I was screaming at my TV for Lazard to get down. When Lazard kept running and wasn't getting down, I was screaming at him to get down.
Yeah, I did. I mean, like I was. So okay, so the Kayvon Thibodeau flag. I mean, if that doesn't,
he was offsides. He was offsides.
Oh, he's definitely offsides.
I know you put up that video. If I have another view of it in my review.
I didn't even know people were arguing about that.
He put it up saying that like
Kayvon did.
Yeah, like hey, basically timing the ball, Von Miller, eyes on the ball. He was basically trying to say that he only went offsides when the ball was snapped. You could see in the all 22 version or angle, he's lined up with his head over the line of scrimmage. So he's lined up offsides in that one. You could play with camera angles and fuck around. So fuck you Giants fans on that one. And the Giants fans who are trying to say that, Will McDonald lined up over the center illegally before Gano missed that kick. You know, that they should have Blewett dead there and all this stuff. The game that shouldn't have happened. The rule book says, I believe it's helmet on the shoulder or helmet on the outside shoulder pad or shoulder pad to the shoulder pad, and that's exactly how Will McDonald is lined up. And then he jumps him and clears him. There's no penalty there, so Giants fans can quit their bitching. Blame Gano, blame your coach for sending out your field goal kicker in shitty conditions with a injured, I believe it's like an injured left quad or knee or whatever it was. So he was compromised. You missed 2 field goals. You can't contain the Jets at the end. Like, you just suck some ass. So, stop trying to find excuses. Both those penalties are non-penalties were legit. So
yeah, the Giants deserve to lose. Just like the Jets at a certain point. If the Giants didn't kind of screw up at the end, the Jets had deserved to lose. I mean, like, the Jermaine Johnson penalty, you just can't have that in that situation.
What a dumb penalty.
Quincy Williams penalty. I mean, like, based on these rules, it is a penalty. Michael Clemens jumping off sides, which, ate up another 3-4 minutes of the game clock.
I bugged out. I bugged on that one because Michael Clemens has done nothing all year. The first time he makes an appearance, that's what he does. And even JJ, dude, like JJ's ascendance, awesome. When you have three guys who are wrapping up a quarterback on a quarterback draw, and Quinnen Williams is going to let the guy go, and you dive over another male, another human being, another male subject, and you hit him head to head. It's like, what are you doing, JJ? Like, how do you jump there? So he basically handed them, 4 extra points there. So that was terrible. Again, Clemens was terrible. The Quincy should have almost had three.
By the way, Clemens played way too much in this game too. Like, I actually thought that Bryce Huff. I remember searching Twitter to see if Bryce Huff was, because I feel like Bryce Huff was like kind of limping earlier in the game, and I was like, oh shit. And then I didn't see him for a while after, and I was like, oh man, like I can't wait to hear what the heck the Bryce Huff injury is. And I just saw Clemens playing a lot, even on like third down situations, and that to me was a little confusing. Mm-hmm. So I do wonder if he was limping a little bit, and that's why Clemens played so much. But yeah, that man gives you absolutely nothing in pass rushing situations, and even in run support and things like that. And there was so much of this talk that they're going to play him some 3-tech and stuff this year. He doesn't really give you anything there. So
I don't know if it was the long snapper or whoever he jumped off sides on or whatever, Kyle, but he showed that
right in front of the ball. Right,
he showed him as a monster.
Yeah, he did.
He knows now. He knows. I'm sure
that long snapper was shaking in his boots after seeing Michael Clemens walk into training camp with his shirt off and a bat and whatever.
I'm not trying to be like that guy, Kyle, but these guys are all a bunch of mammoth fucking human beings. They're 330-pound offensive linemen. Do you think they're scared of Michael Clemens? Like, I'm sorry, they're not. It's just nobody's afraid of his mantra. So whatever. I just don't like the fact that fans overrate him because of a mantra thing. I'm like, hey, let's back it up on the field. And when he's on the field, he kind of sucks. I'm sorry, but don't jump off sides and you won't piss us off. But
that stuff definitely kind of works like in the lower levels, like of football, when like, okay, you kind of like really don't get good game film and you kind of can't really see your opponent. You don't really know what they're about. But the first guy coming off the bus thing, like, oh man, that guy's big. Like that does work with younger kids and stuff. But professional athletes, if they see your film and know you're not that good, they're not scared.
No, it works when Justin Jefferson walks off that bus. You're like, holy fucking shit, that's Justin Jefferson. I'm about to get roasted. It's not like, oh my God, this Michael Clemens with no sacks, no tackles for loss. He's gonna bull rush me today. It's like, whoa, watch out, guys. I'm sorry, being a little bull rush
because he's got such a good get off, man. That dude looks like he's moving in quicksand.
Jan, $20 super chat. Let's go. Put this towards the video editor software I want you drawing on the screen. So do I, Jan. Yeah, mic's coming. Camera, like an actual camera. So the computer camera's coming. I'm gonna get a TV for like right here. You guys can't see it, but I'm a little TV, so I can like live stream games or whatever. And I did talk to Ryan about I'm gonna try to figure out a video editor software. I saw something. It was basically like like an iPad where you draw on the screen, but you can't see the image on the screen, and then it goes to your actual like computer. But the only problem is I'm gonna be drawing on the screen and freaking miss the line and all that shit, so I can't do that one. So yeah, I would like to figure out video editor software. So if anybody knows what I could draw on the screen with, like a pen, I would be thrilled. And then also something else I'm looking to do, Kyle, since we're onto this, I'm trying to get like a custom like Jets X Factor sign behind me. I don't know if I want it to be like neon light up or like just custom X Factor, but I feel like there should be something like right about here or so. Little Jets
that
X
wall
Factor.
is looking a little plain right there.
I just moved into it. I literally built this freaking desk, which the desk I am now,
But you
occupying.
built the desk or you put together the desk?
I put together the desk, Kyle. When I'm
Okay.
telling you, there were easily 1,000 different parts to this desk, and it's like one of those desks where if you tighten a screw too much on one side, you're not going to be able to align the screw holes on the other side. So to loosen that screw hole, to tighten on the other side, and then tighten on it took me a good like 6 hours to put this thing together. So pain in the ass. But yes,
That's
Jan,
one thing I could say
appreciate
about our generation, and I'm not mechanically inclined, but like it just feels like our grandfathers, man, they could just put together anything. And our generation, like we can't put together shit. We're so illiterate when it comes to using tools.
Yeah, it was bad putting together, but yeah, I'm trying to do it up a little bit. So any recommendations? Let me know about video editor software. Any custom signs? Let me know. Blitz Crew $2 super chat, which we appreciate, and obviously appreciate as always.
Please, Corey, return Corey, please. I'm begging you.
Is this something that Blitz Crew heard, or is this something that Blitz Crew saw because a bunch of fans were like, "Fuck"?
The only thing I saw, and sometimes you just wonder if it's people speaking into existence. And there's so many of these accounts on Twitter X that just. If conversations are had by fans, which have no sources, sometimes some of these accounts, they're just trying to get clicks and likes and reposts, not retweets anymore. They'll just put out a story. Rumor has it that Corey Davis is considering returning at some point this season. It's like,
I saw him trending. I saw him trending on the side of my Twitter, and I was like, well, like what is going on here? And then nothing. It was just like a stupid freaking Corey Davis rumor. But yeah, I would love for him to come back. I think he'd be our second best receiver.
That would be huge.
And
I think that if that did happen, you would see how much he was missed this whole season, and he's gonna help the run game too, for that matter. And a lot of fans are saying like, oh, we know Corey Davis, he's missed so many games, he hasn't done shit with the Jets, he's been a bust, fifth overall pick bust. I think you'll realize, okay, yeah, Corey Davis never lived up to fifth overall pick. He's never going to, never ever ever will live up to that hype. But I think you'll see that, oh, wow, he actually was a valuable piece to this offense.
Mm-hmm. And this kind of correlates to should have made a move at the deadline. Kyle, thoughts
apparently they tried to. Apparently that, what I'm hearing is they were very much in on Mike Evans and especially Devontae Adams. Who knows, if that is 100% true. It seems to me like it would be true. Joe Douglas is definitely one to do trades. I don't know how you could look at this offense and not think that they don't need help at receiver. Devontae obviously makes a ton of sense, and just in terms of contract-wise, it doesn't make sense. But
is he a lock to be a Jet in 2024, you think?
I would say that I don't know what the Vegas odds are on it, but it seems like that would probably be a pretty safe bet. Yeah. So, yeah, man, like, they're going to clean house and stuff, and, this guy O'Connell, is he going to be the deal going forward? The real deal? Probably not. Despite the fact that he did have a good preseason. Preseason. Mac Jones had a great preseason as a rookie. Did Mac Jones really pan out? Not necessarily. So, what the hell were we talking? We were talking about Corey Davis and
trade deadline.
Oh yeah, trade deadline. Yeah, apparently the Jets weren't really interested in Hunter Renfrow, which I kind of get it. Garrett Wilson does spend a decent amount of time in the slot. Xavier Gibson is a guy that will spend some time in the slot. Lazard spends a decent amount of time in the slot. Renfro's not one of these guys you ever want to put on the outside. So he's kind of, in a sense, a little bit of a one-dimensional player, and he hasn't really been good the past couple of years. Like, I know Josh McDaniels is kind of one of these guys who some people might say is a quote-unquote control freak. We're seeing all these videos about Raiders players having wrestling matches, the linemen in the locker room, and Devontae Adams playing basketball in the linebacker now that the big authoritarian Belichickian coach is gone. So, I could see it as like, oh, well, maybe just Josh McDaniels just hated him because he did thrive under Gruden. It's like, okay, yeah, but maybe he's also, he was a limitedly athletic player and that's why he was drafted so late and all these teams passed on him. And, maybe now the injuries are catching up with him and stuff. Maybe it's just, he just kind of, had lightning in a bottle for a little bit and he's kind of regressing back to the norm. I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched enough Hunter Renfrow tape over the years. I've seen a couple nice highlight plays where he's had some really creative routes or whatnot, but I don't know that that's a guy that can consistently create separation and get open doing that type of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if part of their thinking was they don't want to bring a Band-Aid in because it's going to limit them next year in terms of landing one of those big fish. Could you trade for a Renfro this year and then let him go in the offseason and then bring in Devontae Adams? Is that too
it's
much?
not like his contract was nothing. I mean, it was,
now
substantial given the fact that, he's had so little production.
Now, with that being said, do I think they should have done something? Yes. Do I think that this last game, Lazard is your 2? Or even just in general, Cobb as your 3, and then a bunch of UDFAs as your 4, 5, 6. It's not good enough. So I would have loved to see them make a move. I would have loved to see them bring in Hopkins months ago. I would like to see them after Corey Davis retired have done something. So I don't like the fact they didn't do anything because my problem is the receiving core right now, minus Garrett Wilson, sucks. Let's just be completely honest. And if their plan is Rodgers, or if they do plan on Rodgers coming back at the end of the year, he's going to come back for a playoff run, and his receivers are going to be who?
And
Wilson,
the offensive
Lazard,
line is bad too.
And the offensive line, and that's we're trickling into the offensive line now. Maybe McGovern's on IR, but hopefully he comes back shortly. Schweitzer's on the IR, but hopefully he comes back shortly. Tippmann's practicing, so maybe that's why they're not looking to add a guy because they figured all their guys to come back in the next couple of weeks, but still, something there. Kelvin Beachum, Tristan Colon Castillo, Nate Herbig. I don't know. I would like to see something there.
Who's Nate Herbig playing for these days? I forgot. I forgot who signed with him.
The Steelers, maybe.
Steelers. Okay.
Yeah, it could be the Steelers. So I would like to see him do something. I know Donovan's Peoples-Jones went. I know. Was it Ezra Cleveland? The guard got traded from the Cardinals to. Was it the Cardinals or maybe it wasn't the Cardinals? It was.
Well, he was with the Vikings and he got traded to I forgot who.
The Jaguars. So the Vikings to the Jaguars. So I would have liked to see him do something just because, listen, at the end of the day, what they have right now is not enough on offense. Regardless if it's Rodgers or Zach Wilson, obviously Rodgers makes a much bigger impact in terms of the positive. Yeah. But even with Rodgers, Xavier Newman as one of your starting offensive linemen right now is not good enough. And I know that you could say, oh, well, you can't plan for injuries, but you kind of can because we said we should plan for the injuries at tackle, how many months ago, Kyle? And now they have injuries at tackle and don't really have anybody to necessarily step up who we feel comfortable with, even though with that being said, Max Mitchell's been a little bit better. But I would like to see him do something. Trade Dalvin Cook, but again, who's going to want Dalvin Cook? Trade Carl Lawson, but again, who's going to want Carl Lawson? So I get not getting rid of those guys. I expected to see at least some type of receiver. I don't know.
Yeah.
A move. But they did bring in what's the guard they brought in?
Roger Saffold.
Old dude. Roger Saffold, Kyle. Is he going to save our offensive line problems? I know he had quite a few issues with Buffalo last year when he played with them, but he's a 2-time Pro Bowler the last 2 years, so we know how much that means. So, what are your thoughts on?
Wait, was that sarcasm? He was a 2-time Pro Bowler each of the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think he's a Pro Bowler in 2022 and 2021. Pretty
really?
Sure. Yeah, pretty sure.
I kept hearing about how horrible he was in 2022 in the games I watched, which wasn't a ton, but he did play the Jets twice last year. He was pretty damn bad. Quinnen Williams abused him. So that to me is quite hard to comprehend. I mean, was there a gazillion alternatives to the Pro Bowl last year? I mean, if he was so damn good, why did any team wait to sign him till this point? And what did he sign for, a veteran's minimum or something? I mean, he does have experience with Keith Carter. I mean, I guess the guy's got some versatility. If I'm not mistaken, I think when he was drafted so many years ago at the top of the second round to the Rams, I think he was drafted as a tackle, ended up being converted to guard.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's played tackle in a gazillion years. So I mean,
Pro Bowl.
Yeah, and so he definitely had some good years with Keith Carter, and I know that coaches try to bring in guys that they're familiar with, but my understanding is that he just was so washed last year, and we talked about it so many times in recent weeks that just like, it just seems like offensive linemen, once they hit that wall and all those injuries and stuff build up, their decline is very steep. Just like running backs decline can be really steep. Like think about Le'Veon Bell's decline. Like it seems like offensive linemen also, like you can be a good receiver into your mid 30s and stuff. It is possible. Not as easy, but it's possible. Running back, offensive linemen, their declines are pretty big. Defensive line, you can be pretty good into your mid 30s, but obviously quarterback, you can be good into your 40s. I don't know, man.
I'm gonna be really interested to see what they do on the offensive line next year. Like, because Beckman's not under contract. Tomlinson, you can get out of. Actually, you can't really.
Yeah, you're gonna pick up AVT's 5th-year option. Who the hell knows, man?
It's going to be AVT, it's going to be Tippmann, it's going to be Tomlinson. But who is the starting left tackle and who's the starting right tackle at this point? Maybe Mitchell if he continues to be okay. I don't know, but yeah, the offensive line is a concern. I would have loved to make more moves at the deadline, but unfortunately they didn't. Blitz Crew, another super chat, $20 this time, which we appreciate you a lot for Blitz Crew. He says, you think Clemens needs to slim back down? Doesn't seem to make as much noise this year with the extra weight. We'll hit that one first. Yes, Kyle, we said this again in August. Our main concern with him adding weight was that he was already unathletic for his size. And you're adding more weight to a guy who's already unathletic, you're just going to make him more unathletic. And you don't need to add weight to what he was doing. Like he was good on the edge at 270, 275, blowing up tackles, blowing up tight ends in the running game. But then adding weight to him and then trying to put him on the inside where the guys are stronger, it just hasn't worked out and he's been playing more edge than in the inside, at least from my watching. But yeah, I didn't really think what was the point of adding weight to him? So we could just blow up tight ends more and lose athleticism. So I know at least I did not agree with the adding of weight. I can't speak for Kyle and say he 100% did not like it, but I remember saying in July or August, remember he was talking about, oh my God, Clemens added 10 to 15 pounds of muscle mass. He's going to be a monster this year. I'm like, dude, I don't know if this is a good thing, fellas. And so far, I'm not saying it's exactly that, but maybe it is. I think him adding weight is a bad thing due to his already lack of athleticism.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe from his perspective, he was thinking like, "Oh, well, I'm just going to build on my strengths, and I'm a power guy. I'm not a finesse guy." Okay, well, you already didn't really have much juice, and you the position you play is you need to cover a lot of ground in a very short period of time. So, is this necessarily the smartest move? You're not really going to play on the inside. You're not that big to the point where you're going to play on the inside. So. I don't know. It didn't seem like a smart move. I probably didn't hate it as much as you, just because I thought he already doesn't give me a lot of stuff off the edge, but now he's going to give you even less of it. I don't know. I'm telling you, if he slims down, he's not going to be explosive at all. Like this is not a speed to power guy because there is no speed there. He has power. There's no speed. So, even him slimming down, it's the better move based on the position that he does play, but don't expect him to all of a sudden slim down and, that Michael Clemens looks more explosive. Maybe the slightest tad.
So he adds, Ryan had a video on Corey yesterday. Yeah, I think Ryan probably did that because he saw all of the, hype about it on Twitter. So he made a video because you want to hit videos, popular topics. So I don't think there's anything based on facts or rumors like he's heard. I don't want to put words into his mouth, but I'm going to assume that. And he says, who is at right guard this Monday? Tip, I assume, is going to be at center if he's good to go. Tippmann, if he's healthy,
I do want to see Tippmann at center. I really do.
Yeah, because McGovern's out, so you're going to put him at center. Right now, Kyle, Xavier Newman came in before Billy Turner at guard, right? So you're assuming it's going to be, which is surprising that a guy just off the practice squad is playing at guard over Billy Turner.
Yeah, that is.
I'm going to assume it's going to be Tippmann, Newman, Mitchell right side, which. God, but not ideal. And just talking about the overall offensive line in that game too, because we kind of talk about Zach a little bit. We'll get into the game. We'll get into all that stuff too. But Becton not good, 2 sacks. Tomlinson, I think, was 2022 Tomlinson in this game. He gave up quite a few pressures and a few baffling plays. McGovern got his lunch eaten before he went out. Newman then got his ass beat, which is expected versus Dexter Lawrence. Billy Turner looked like Billy Turner. There were some plays where there's one play where he was going to take on Dexter Lawrence on basically I think it was him and Newman trying to pass off a stunt. And instead of trying to get his hands on him, he just drops his shoulder into him. and then ends up on his ass. I'm like, what are you doing, Billy Turner? So Billy Turner wasn't good. Max Mitchell, he had a few really bad plays, but I don't think he was brutal this game. I would say the main problem of this game, in terms of at least relative to expectations, we expected Newman to get beat up versus Lawrence, right? We expected Billy Turner, but Becton and Tomlinson played below their standard for at least this year in this game, in my opinion, in a big way too. Not just like, slightly below average. They were both pretty bad this game.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably say that this was Kayvon Thibodeau's best game of his career. Well, maybe not. I mean, I haven't watched Kayvon's games. I think there was one game last year where he had like a ton of pressures or whatever. But in terms of sacks, getting home, turnover, I mean, like when I watched Kayvon's film, I did see a couple not really nice plays in the run game. But in terms of him as a pass rusher, I didn't feel like any of his wins were like, oh, wow, that Kayvon looked really explosive there. Oh, wow, Kayvon showed really good bend there. Oh, Kayvon showed really good power there. It mostly was just poor play from Mekhi Becton, who struggles sometimes with like hand placement and stuff. Sometimes he struggles a little bit with
the one sack hits in the face.
Yeah. So sometimes he struggles with like where exactly the pacing when he's mirroring the defender. Sometimes he lags behind a little bit. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like I feel personally that since Becton has slimmed down, his punch does have less power. I think it's quite noticeable. So, take that for what it's worth, because, Becton hasn't really been seriously hurt this year. So maybe that has to do with him slimming down, but he has lost some of the it factor that he had when he was as big as he was. So yeah, I mean, like, I don't feel like, Kayvon was like Micah Parsons he was so good in that game against the Jets. It's like, I don't know who would Micah Parsons on that particular day. I don't know who could have blocked him on that day. But this, Mekhi Becton shouldn't be losing to Kayvon Thibodeau on reps like that. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
My thoughts are Greg Van Roten had like a 90-something PFF grade.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I saw it tweeted out. I was like, dude, come on, man, come on. So
by the way, he's what 32, 33 now. So maybe Van Roten. Some people might be listening. It's Kyle talking about linemen, older linemen. What does he know? Look at Greg Van Roten thriving with the Raiders.
I can show you some plays. Say hello to some people in the chat. Hawk. What is up to Hawk? Rusty Spooner, Meatball Parm. Are you anything but honest? Thank you, Simon. Zach stepped up the last few drives. The Garrett Wilson throw was nice. The Lazard throw was nice. There was a few nice throws in there. Like again, I think it was a C+ game. I don't think it was an F. I don't think it was an A. I think people, Kyle, and we talk about this a lot, are too black and white. They want to find a person to blame, and
there was no run game.
Just in general,
absolutely
no run game. There was guys covered. There was protections getting blown. There was guys in his face immediately. But then there was also the fact that he was coming off of reads too early. He was skipping balls that he usually doesn't do. So there was definitely bad from Zach Wilson as well. Although I would have liked the Jets to do more, getting Saffold along with Brown activating Tippin progressing gives me hope that with the line. Although Brown starting scares me, which Kyle Becton seemed to change his tune. They asked him about potentially going back to right tackle if Brown comes back, and he says, I just want to play. Which big step up in terms of his, mentality and all that stuff, because we used to get on him a lot about the Twitter stuff about I'm only a left tackle. Like I hated that shit about Becton, and seemingly he's changed his ways a little bit with that stuff, which is great. Now with that being said, Saleh saying, I don't know exactly what the question he was asked, but he said, basically the best five are starting. They seem to think that Dwayne Brown is one of them. So Dwayne Brown left tackle, Becton right tackle, Tippmann center, Tomlinson left guard, and then right guard is a toss-up. And then what do you do when McGovern comes back? Does Tippmann then go back to right guard, or does McGovern play guard?
I guess it would really depend on how good Tippmann is playing at center. But I don't know. It just seems like Tippmann is younger in his career. He's a player who's in his young 20s as opposed to McGovern, who's in his 30s now. And McGovern started the season at center, so it seems more likely, especially given the fact that Saleh is okay, even though Becton's been playing for several weeks now at left tackle. I feel like Saleh would be more inclined to put McGovern back at center and then flip Tippmann back to guard. It just seems like that's what he would do based on his tendencies. It is interesting that Saleh kind of agrees more with me about the Dwayne Brown versus Max Mitchell thing when you took the opposite side of the argument last week. that doesn't mean that he's right.
Appeal to authority.
Yeah,
Appeal to authority.
yeah,
That's
that
fine.
doesn't
That's
mean
all
he's
right.
right, but yeah, I don't know, man.
It's funny
I
that
watch Max Mitchell.
Sala took my side, you peasant.
Yeah.
You know, fuck you, Kyle.
Hey, you started off the show talking about how I'm just carrying your water.
I didn't say it. Somebody else said it. You know, I just
You were
reiterated.
smiling when you said it, and you thought it was pretty funny.
I'm not taking sides.
But that person might not be wrong, though. Seriously, maybe I'm just carrying your water. I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to say Max Mitchell was horrible in this game. That's not what I'm saying at all. But there were a couple plays where, you know, I don't know, man. Like, his game is ugly to me. Like, his pass sets are ugly to me. I do.
They ran that one duo behind him, right to him, and he got shit whipped by 91 and completely.
Yeah, I don't even know who 91 is either. I remember that. There's no smoothness in the drop back of his pass sets. You know, he has to get there with immediacy. He does have those shorter arms. I feel like he opens way too much, leaving himself open for inside moves or for a defender with a little bit longer arms to kind of get him on the inside of his inside pec and then just toss him to the side, beat him inside. I don't see him creating much space in the run game ever. So I don't know, man. I don't get the intrigue with Max Mitchell. I think he's a player who wants to be good, who's dedicated and things like that, but I don't know. You need more than that in the NFL.
Kyle, from Nose Kills, $10. Which is more likely to happen first? A game without Salah or me screaming into a towel due to dumb penalties and self-inflicted wounds, or Zach going over 300 passing yards?
Which is more likely to happen first? A game without Salah or me screaming into a towel due to dumb penalties and self-inflicted, or Zach Wilson going over Well, Zach has gone over 300 yards in his career. Titans game. That's the only one that comes to mind.
This game was like 240, 250. And now we're coming to the stretch of the schedule where you have Chargers, Raiders, 2 hard games, and then you have the Texans, the Falcons, all that stuff. So I'll go optimist here, and I'll say that Zach throws for 300 in the next 2 games. One of the next 2 games against the Raiders or against the Chargers, he throws for 300. Now, with that being said, is there still going to be stupid penalties in those games? Probably, because there's been stupid penalties this entire year. Yeah, the one, what was it the Denver game where you have like seemingly like 54 guys running around the field like a chicken with their head cut off on a defensive snap? And it's like, what is going on here? So, yeah, there's been some bad penalties, but I'm going to say Zach throws for 300 in one of the next 2 games. Kyle, would you take that bet?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I feel like there was another game this year too. The Chiefs game. The Chiefs game, he wasn't that far off. If they threw the ball a little bit more, if they got the chance to get that final drive because the refs didn't screw them over, he could very well go over 300 in that game.
That's how I look at this game, Kyle. It's like, listen, we should have won the Chiefs game. We probably shouldn't have won this game realistically, but they owed us the Chiefs game, which I gave credit to the refs in this one too. Credit to the ref. Well, credit to Newman for checking the side judge and the side judge giving him the nod that the ball is okay. And then credit to the back judge who ran up, just gave that ball a little love tap and then let us snap the ball. Like, credit to the refs there too, because the refs, if they were old, lazy, fat pieces of shit, could have ran a second slower to that ball and then it's not snap right there. So
they get paid a lot of money, you know, to do that job. So. Which is just a temporary job for them.
Yeah, a lot of them
I feel like I remember something from years back where most of the refs in the NFL are like lawyers or something like that.
Yeah, they are. Actually, one of the Jimmy Quirk, he's one of the NFL refs. He actually helped me with was it a 457 or something we set up? Where he's like a financial advisor for.
He's a ref in the NFL.
He's my wife's dad's friend, so he's a financial guy. But yeah, Jimmy Quirk. He's done. I don't know if he's still doing it, but he's like been in the Super Bowl and stuff. And we like met him at a freaking Denny's to like talk over. I think it's like a 457 or some shit, or whatever, like retirement shit. Or no, it wasn't. It was on 457. It was a Roth IRA. We were setting up with Jimmy Quirk. So, okay, we will continue on. Where am I at in the chat? All right. This is the only problem with Kyle not having his stuff up like he was supposed to have it up. Carrying the water. You can't carry the water, right?
I'll tell you what, man. Right after we get off this damn stream, we'll log me in.
Slow-mo guy, nice room. I appreciate that. It's going to get a lot of upgrades. The camera, everything. that's going to get hung up. Wherever this is going to get hung up, this thing is going to get hung up too. So, yeah, I appreciate. I've been working a little bit to up it. Ryan puts me to shame. So I don't have to go from like Joe to Ryan, but I got to be somewhere like right in the middle. I'm gonna get some sound effects. I'm gonna have a "You Blew It" sound effect. Maybe from is that we talked about it before? Is it Happy Gilmore? Is it Mr. Deeds? I think it's Billy Madison. The "You Blew It."
I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure with like the fat kid and the teacher or something like that. And yeah, so I think I'm gonna have that sound effect. So if you can think of good sound effects, anything like that, send us recommendations because we're gonna be pushing up the quality of the camera and stuff. So it's up to Swolsey. That game was ridiculous. That was a disgusting game. Yeah, like at the end of the day, people just look at it like win or loss. And if they were to lose this game, we'd be hammering Zach Wilson all week and the offense all week because we won. Do we just ignore it? Like, oh, they won, so it's positive. We can't ignore the process, right? We're much more process versus results. So
if I can make a little comment about that. So remember the Vikings last year? The Vikings won, what was it? Like 9, 10, maybe even more one-score games. They're just eking out wins by the skin of their teeth. And there is something to like, okay, you're a team that has character, grit, never quits. You want a team like that, but at the same time, you also want to be much better than your opponents to the point where you can dominate them because that shows that you're actually a better team.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, look at how good that Dolphins offense is right now. That Dolphins offense on any given week can easily put 30 up. And they have a defense too. Like they got Jalen Ramsey back now. Like they have a stud D-line. Their linebackers are okay. Their secondary is good. They have a great defensive coordinator. I hate to say it, but, and I'm glad that the Dolphins, against two better teams in the league, the Dolphins didn't look so good against the Eagles and the Bills, which really kind of humbled their fans because their fans love to talk. But I hate to say it, but the Dolphins are a top 5 team in the NFL right now. And, the Jets are not going to win scoring 7 to 10 points against the Miami Dolphins.
Haven't they not beat a team over 500 in like a year? Like they'd never beat teams who are good. The Dolphins. I'm pretty sure.
I remember. I mean, I love rooting against Dolphins every week, but
I fucking hate the Dolphins, dude.
When we were trying to get into the playoffs, like I remember it, like, so Nania, like, he did, I'm pretty sure it was Nania who did something like the Jets rooting guide to get to the playoffs. We were rooting for it was a Sunday night football or a Monday night football game, and we were all rooting for the Dolphins, and then they shit the bed against the Chargers in LA.
Yes.
Last year. And that's just kind of the team who they are.
Mm-hmm. People coming at Kyle like Jets Twitter coming at Narnia. And then we have another question. Will Kyle step in for the Michael Narnia, Paul Green fight? No comment, Kyle. I don't know if you saw the whole thing, but
I don't know why it started, but yeah, I mean, I kind of know why it started, but
we could talk. We could talk. I can't do that. Not right now. So, Blewett, what are your season thoughts on Quinnen so far? Last year he was a 10. This year he's a 9. Right? Like I think he's a top 10 defensive tackle. I think he's really good. I think that this game he had a couple of run stuffs. Now, with that all being said, do I want more production as a pass rusher? I do. And while saying that, I also acknowledge that, okay, the Pats game, the Cowboys game, some of these games, the ball is out very, very quickly because that's how you attack the Jets defense. I acknowledge that. With that being said, he went from elite to like very, 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 very good. Like he almost year 4 was last year for Q, or was that year 3? Year 4, right? Year 4 for Q. He's more like year 3 Q than year 4 Q right now. He's very, very good, but not elite right now, right? Like I don't know. I think he's a tick down. Still top 5, still top 10, maybe not second best to Donald, maybe not third best to Chris Jones. Maybe he's in that 5 to 7 range right now based on how he's playing, but still very good, right? I'm not trying to shit on Q, but he has not been as good as last year. So
yeah, I agree with that.
Who's going to Monday night game? Let's drink our asses off. I'll be there. I know Kyle will be there. I know Ryan's doing his like meetup thing, the tailgate show, so they'll be there. So make sure to check them out. If you don't have a spot to tailgate, my tailgate's very it's just small. It's just buddies. It's not really anything like big. I don't do events and stuff like that. I just go there to go with my buddies and get a little fucked up and then go to the game. It's fun. So I'll be there. Oh my God, Craig found it on Blewett show. So I guess Craig throwing out Zach Wilson stats on their show is a thing, but I appreciate Craig coming here and finding us because he dropped some money, so that always helps me. If it wasn't for the refs swifting us, we'd be 5-2 at worst. Shake my head. This past game, though, bonded our team even more. It's kind of nice, Kyle, that it's not nice, but it's one of the benefits of this game and losing it or winning it how ugly we won it. Is there something to the effect of, hey, the Jets know that they escaped for one, like they're not walking out of this happy. They should watch this film. Like, we really fucking sucked. So they're not like riding that emotional high of beating the Giants. Like, if they blew them out, does the Chargers have more of a chance of the game being more of like a not a trap game because it's Monday Night Football against another AFC contender? But you know what I mean? Like, does them losing so ugly maybe do something for them to the effect of like, hey, we sucked ass. We got to kind of pick up our shit a little bit.
I definitely think so, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's another. While I was reading that chat, some things came to mind. Number one, I mean, like, something with these comebacks, I do think that Zach Wilson is learning some of the respect from his teammates. Like, this guy's going to fight whistle to whistle. Like, he's getting killed. He's taking some shots. Like, he did take some shots and, deliver some strikes, standing tall in the pocket, standing tough in the pocket. And that has to earn some of the respect from the teammates. And another thing too, like, I mean, Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson had absolutely zero connection last year. They are developing some type of connection to the point where Zach is trying to feed his star the ball, which he should be. You don't want to rely too much on one player. Like, I remember when Calvin Johnson retired early, a lot of people were saying that Matthew Stafford became a better passer because he just used to, force feed the ball to Calvin so much earlier in his career. And maybe there is some truth to the fact that whatever the stats might say, Stafford maybe did become a better passer. Like, there probably is at least some truth to that. But when you look at the Jets' current situation, Garrett is the only guy who can consistently separate. So Zach needs to be forcing him the ball. And it does seem like they are building a little bit more of a bond. And it does seem like Garrett is, gaining a little bit like respect for him. You could see he was so visibly frustrated last year, and you're seeing less of that. So that is also a promising sign. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This game, there's a few like, hey, screw it. I know Garrett Wilson's somewhere down there. I'm just going to chuck that ball. Like, on that third down where he ran like that stop or that comeback.
Yeah. Late in the game,
yeah.
When the defender had defensive pass interference, but Garrett still caught the ball and still got the first down.
Slow-mo guy, I appreciate this comment. Joe, are you using your webcam mic or actual mic? Just checking because there's some background noise. It was coming through my AirPods, so now my audio should be improved. With that being said, I have this little shitty mic. A new good mic is coming soon. So again, audio will be improved. And yeah, I just use my I used to use my laptop camera, but that's going to be an actual like webcam now. Soon. So then I gotta get a Mac Mini, I believe it's called, and do all that shit. I'm gonna get different monitors. Joe, you should stream a game. I should absolutely not stream a Jets game. Kyle has been with me at Jets games. You guys would all fucking hate me. Like my wife's like, I legitimately like watching games better when you're not here because I don't enjoy myself. So you don't want that, Christian. I legitimately promise you. Kyle can attest, I'm sure. I started trouble.
Joe is very negative during games.
No, why do I have a reason not to be negative? Like, can you imagine us at that Giants game, Kyle, with how bad that was? Rivka's starting trouble. Yeah, again, I'm not getting so much involved. I'm fine with both people. What's up, Rivka? Keep up the good work. I read it all. Good appearance on CYJ Pod 2. Yeah, make sure to go check that out if you're not a Donnie hater at this point, because apparently your people are picking sides. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving on. Fans need to lay off Zach. Which Kyle, we'll go through this while I'm scrolling through the chat. We kind of do this. We talked about the quarterback. We talked about the offensive line. Anything you want to add from the running backs or the tight ends in this game that you saw while I find a couple of chats?
It's hard for me to really criticize the running backs. There just really wasn't much space. I mean, I think that for the most part, Brees was trying, especially the gap plays. He was trying to hit the hole. Some of it wasn't there. Kind of late in the game, he tried bouncing something. Even when he tried to bounce it, it wasn't there. Cook he didn't run much, but he seemed to be a little bit more decisive, but he's still not really explosive. So, and again, there wasn't much space to run. Did you say running backs and who else? Receivers?
Tight ends, receivers. Yeah, there's skill groups. That's fine.
Tight ends. This was one of Uzama's better games. He was blocking angry. Big block on Brees's touchdown. Nice play on by the way, Zach Wilson pump fake on that play did look like
the
Aaron
ball
Rodgers
handling.
Yeah,
the ball handling was amazing there. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, that was really nice. But then give credit to Uzama too, because he broke that tackle, turned up. He's actually not bad with the ball in his hand. It is kind of interesting sometimes when a guy looks so unathletic and can't separate, but then when he's got the ball in his hands, he can actually break tackles and stuff. It's kind of like Conklin and Uzomah are kind of almost the opposite in that regard. And Rucker, again, I want to see the guy running more routes. But his blocking again, like there was one play late in the game where he tried to block Kayvon and Kayvon really kind of abused him and got in on good run stuff late in the game, kind of forced the ball back inside. But other than that, I thought that he had some really solid blocks. The one end around to Garrett Wilson, I mean, like Rucker, he gets in space, and this is a guy who drives his feet through contact. Like he wants to hit people in space, and he is good at sizing up a defender in space and hitting them. So, I was pretty pleased with what I saw from him overall in the game.
Oh yeah, and talk about Brees.
I think you're going through your AirPods again. I can't be positive about that, but I think
AirPods again. What the fuck is going on here? No, it says
okay,
USB.
Maybe it's just because you're more.
Okay. Yeah, running backs. I thought Brees was obviously he had that 50-yard touchdown reception. The one drop was obviously on him. There was a few plays where I didn't like his indecisiveness. There was the one play he bounced outside in a duo where I'd like to see him take a yard or two. And he tried to bounce outside and he ran right into Thibodeau. But overall, he was okay. Tight ends, like you said, Ruckert had that one play up the seam where he was wide open and Zach waited to throw the ball to him. So then
the thing about duo, and I'm curious to get your perspective on this duo. Oftentimes, it is supposed to hit a certain gap, but if it doesn't look good initially, running backs are taught to bounce those types of runs. Is your understanding the same thing based on what you studied from duo? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I could see why he would try to bounce it based on the fact that
you'll see in the review. When he bounces it though, you have Thibodeau who has a good 5 yards out to his left, so he'd really have to cover some ground before outflanking Thibodeau to the outside. So I'd like to see him press a little bit more and cut up field. He just takes a loss, but nonetheless, receivers didn't get open. Wilson was obviously really good this game. Zach, that one throw where he was a little bit late to Wilson, I would like to see Zach reset his base and throw that ball. The tight ends,
the one where he kind of floated the ball and then
floated it.
And what was it? Pinnock who got in there to break it up.
I believe it was. I don't know if it's Pinnock, but it was one of the DBs. Yeah, it's
it was definitely
it was a lot of arm. It was a lot of arm on that throw, so they see that. But nonetheless, Ruckert was fine. Uzomah had that one really nice yak play, and then on the Brees touchdown throw, he had a really really nice block there too. So credit to him. And that's really, I guess, it for the offensive skill group. Stinkers of Boots says tight ends need to chip before going out on their routes against the Chargers. They have the edges, not even the edges. Well, I know Mack has fallen off a little bit. I know Bosa has even fallen off a little bit as compared to him in his prime. But they also have a D tackle. I saw it somewhere on Twitter, like PFF or whatever. Their D tackle has 4 or 5 sacks on the interior as well. So not only do you have edges who you have to be concerned about with the Chargers, but you have an interior defensive lineman who's picking up sacks. You have Murray, and who's the other? Is it Kendricks is the other linebacker? So you have 2 decent linebackers, and then you have Derwin James at safety. So they have some studs on that defense. Now, with that being said, I think they're the 32nd ranked passing defense in the league, and they allow about 300 yards to quarterbacks. So you hope they can take advantage of it. The problem is, to take advantage of it, you need your receivers to be able to get open, and only one of ours can. So if the Chargers are going to obviously blitz or send Mack and Bosa and their D tackle, and then you have Garrett Wilson double teamed, who else is getting open? Because you're going to want guys who can get open quickly versus a good pass rush, and they don't really have those guys. So I'm a little bit concerned. And I'm going to be concerned about who gets open past Garrett Wilson for the rest of the season. That's why I thought they should have added somebody. But yeah, you have to be concerned about their edge rushers, and then even their D tackle who's going to go against potentially still banged up Joe Tippmann or Xavier Newman and Billy Turner. It's not ideal.
Definitely not ideal, but I'm up for the task. I'm curious to see how these guys are going to play in a situation like this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Devils are fun to watch. Yeah, Devils are on right now, I believe. Actually, I should have that on. Which when I have my TV here, it's going to be completely fine. Devils are playing the Wild, I believe, right now. Which new place looks cool, Joe. Yeah, I appreciate that, Christian. Again, with the Ryans and all those people out there with great backgrounds and great mics and all these studio stuff with buttons and and chickens flying across the screen and shit. And I'm sitting in my freaking living room with a 10-year-old laptop with a mini split behind me with a AC unit talking. So it's like I need to step up my shit. So
hey,
Ryan
AC
inspired
unit
me.
behind you. You're just trying to support MetLife Stadium.
Yeah, exactly. Right. We don't have to be down on AC units. So, okay, let's see. We need Joe to go to hockey coaches clinics and start a Devil's X Factor channel. No, I would. Yeah, if there's no, I love hockey though. Hockey's my number 2. Kyle, if football just completely went away, would you have even a number? Like, I don't know if you even have a number 2 sport.
Mixed martial arts.
Yeah, you do like MMA and watch all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, I did like it a lot, like when I was like younger, first year of college, and then I like wasn't really interested in it for a long time. But like the past couple of years, I've definitely been interested a little bit more. But I don't claim to know a ton about the sport or whatever. But it is fascinating to watch. Just assassins fight each other and take each other on, and I don't know. It's a really cool sport, man, and it's because on the one reason I love sports because of team, camaraderie and working together and stuff. But something like MMA is, it's totally different. It's just mano a mano, and there's something cool about that too. But anyway,
yeah, for sure. Like you either walk out of there the highest of highs, like you just beat another man, or you got your ass beaten by another man in front of all of your family, all of your friends, everybody on Twitter. You're gonna have some random fucking fat guy in Minnesota who's 55, 300 pounds, came and jumping inch off the ground. Like, oh, you fucking pussy, you got your ass beat, so, which you got to recognize, right? You got to recognize that, which is why typically I don't respond to anybody on Twitter. I really don't. I post and dump there now for the most part, unless I recognize the name. Why is the trade deadline so early relative to other sports? Is it though? Like in terms of
I didn't know it was
early it is in relation to the how long it is in the season? Like the trade deadline is basically halfway through the season almost. So
well, yeah. So it's not. So I'm wondering, are there some sports where it's like post midseason? I wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not up enough on like trade deadlines of other sports and stuff. But Clemens is also exclusively played on the edge of the season, only 7 snaps inside. That's what I thought too. Like they bulked him up to continue on the outside. It just doesn't really make sense.
No, it's so he could bully long snappers into punters on punts.
There you go. See, Kyle knows the answer. If Garrett gets hurt for a week or two, we are fucked. It's not even like for a week or two. It's last game. It's last game.
Dude,
the Eagles game almost fucked us.
Knock on wood. I with him, the way that man plants and cuts, and then him saying the turf is garbage and stuff, and him kind of going down for a little bit in the Eagles game, man. I'm just so worried like that some non-contact injury is going to happen with him. But pray to God that doesn't happen.
You have Lionheart here who is saying Jets.
You weren't going to call him Lionheart, but you keep calling him Lionheart.
Eagle. See, it's fucking Kyle's fault now. I'm going to keep calling you Eagle. Eagle says Jets need a legit number 1 or 2 wide receiver in the offseason when time comes.
Absolutely. He's going to be 31, but whatever.
Rivka asked before, she's like, do you really think we're going to give up like a first-round pick to get Devontae in the offseason? Do you think it costs that much, Kyle? And do you think the Jets do it if that's the price? Rodgers is going to say, I want this done. The Jets are going to do it. Like Rodgers said he wanted Cook done, and the Jets did it. That's the only reason
I think the Jets would give up a first rounder for him.
Yeah.
And it was so look at last year, and there was the big argument that some people were making, like you didn't have to give up a first round because you're bidding against yourself. Nobody else wanted the guy for that price. So did you need to give up a first rounder for Rodgers? And it's like with Devontae, I don't think every team's going to want him just because of the age factor, and it is a big contract. I mean, you're not trading for a 27-year-old, 28-year-old receiver. You are going to be trading for a receiver who, at some point during next season, I don't know if it's at the beginning. I think his birthday's in December. It's kind of weird that I know a player who's not even on my team, his birthday or whatever. But what is the guy? Is he turning 30 or 31 this December? So what's he going to be next season? Does that warrant giving up a first round pick? Maybe not, but if Rodgers really wants it done, if you really, really are all in next year and he is for sale when he wasn't for sale this year, I could definitely see that happening. But, who the hell is going to be running the Raiders, and do you need to do that depending on what the market is for him? But we've seen receivers go for big price tags, whether in getting money or what they've been traded for. But I mean, AJ Brown, he went for a first and a third So, and AJ was what, 25, 26?
A first and a third to then turn around and draft a fucking bum receiver in the first round, which, by the way, Treylon Burks is really working out with the Titans right now, right, Kyle?
Yeah.
Everybody's telling me about Treylon Burks.
Oh, man.
It was all over his film that he was going to be a guy and then he can't. And then again, anything can change in the NFL. Like, I'm only evaluating that college prospect in that year. So a player can change 4 years down the road. But what I saw on film was a guy who was a me guy who was not the most dedicated to football. And then he comes into camp, Kyle, and he's throwing up because of the practices because he's out of shape. I never, ever would have guessed that would have happened.
And even his combine numbers, like, he was kind of billed as like a big, height, weight, speed guy. And even his combine numbers were kind of like, eh.
Yeah. I was
super impressive.
I was absolutely not a Burks guy.
I don't know, man. AJ Brown, like, you could just tell from year one that dude had special film. And obviously this year, he's almost got 1,000 yards this year. That dude's a stud. I don't know how they let him walk out of that building.
Marvin, I didn't realize how much I would come to hate AJ Brown. Like, I hate AJ Brown now just because of like
Elijah
how
Moore?
he acts, and Elijah Moore, and even Sauce being out, and Sauce being like, I didn't even feel him like basically like a gif of like somebody like questioning Sauce, like, oh, really, you're really hurt, like kind of insinuating that he's dodging the game because AJ Brown is playing in it. So like I don't like AJ Brown's a diva receiver. I don't like him at all. So I actively root against him. But how would you rate the end of the fourth quarter of the Giants game, spiking the ball with? It's not an excitement. It was just pure, like what. Not exhilaration, but just like nerves, dude. Like I was screaming at my TV, get down, to Lazard. And then when he kept running, I'm like, they fucking lost it. They're not going to be able to spike the ball. And then like they get up to the line, they spike it. I'm like, holy shit, dude. But I scared the shit out of my dog and my wife because I was screaming like a little squirrel girl bitch. I'm not going to lie about it. So yeah, it was excitement. I'm assuming that's what he tried to do with the $10 super chat, but we appreciate it. Marvin, were you also screaming like a little schoolgirl bitch, Kyle?
I actually was surprisingly very quiet. I mean, I was just kind of like not expecting it. I'm trying not to. I mean, you know me, like you've been a couple of games with me. I can be like extremely loud, and I will be extremely loud when I go to an actual stadium and stuff. But sometimes when I'm watching, my wife too also doesn't like when I get like too like that. Like I remember when Garrett Wilson scored his touchdown against the Dallas. The immediate words that came out of my mouth was "suck it, Dallas," and I said it really, 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 really loud. My wife's not the hugest fan of like talk like that, so so I try to restrain myself a little bit too sometimes, especially when I'm home. But I kind of was just like a little bit in disbelief. It felt like a lot like the Cleveland game last year in some ways. But I was also kind of really relieved too because I didn't want to hear all the crap from Giants fans like, "Oh, you lost Danny DeVito or whatever." And I know his name's not Danny, but I'm just going to keep calling him that. So
that freaking Browns game, my friend Tom, after you have a few drinks in you, so you don't necessarily think rationally. I just remember when they won that game, just licked him from here to there on his head, just straight sweat. It was disgusting. It was so gross, dude. It was so gross. But I was really fucking excited. But yeah, this one I'm trying to like figure it out, man, because I get way too excited and like screaming and cursing and whatever. But I have to find a middle ground because my kid's going to grow up.
Well, why don't you maybe lay off the booze a little bit?
No, I was completely sober for the Giants.
Oh,
completely sober, screaming. I didn't do anything. But when I have a kid, he's going to watch me and be like, this fucking guy is a psychopath during these games and all this stress. I don't want to watch football, so I gotta chill. Soon before my son realizes like this is kind of fucking stupid. Like, why does he watch this shit if he hates it? I don't know. So who do we want to win? Steelers or Titans? Easily the Titans, right? In terms of playoffs, I don't think the Titans are going to threaten us later on. Steelers might. So
think about the Titans. Yeah, no, the Titans don't have a shot at their division. The Jags are going to win that division. So yeah, I guess you'd probably go with the Titans.
Yeah, somebody said you blew it, capiche, from Tim and Eric too. I'm assuming that's a soundbite. And somebody mentioned before the playoffs one from Herm would be a good one. So yeah, I think there's like 8 or 10 buttons I can hit. So I can be like playoffs, you blew it, whatever, for like just stupid moments. I'm not trying to be all sound effects and shit, but it'd be nice to be able to hit every once in a while. So I'm going to do that. Let's see. Hackett and Salah have to let Zach air it out and eventually soften up the defense. How about some slant and go or double moves downfields from Garrett? Defenses are sitting on routes. Kyle, want to take this? What do you think?
It's hard to say let Zach air it out because while Zach has shown improvement in terms of his general accuracy has certainly improved, his confidence has improved, his pocket presence has improved. I do think his understanding of the game has improved in terms of his internal clock and stuff. Even though it's not good, it's improved. But he is one of the slowest quarterbacks in the league in terms of clicking through reads. The game is not fast. It's not slow for him yet. So when you say just, you're going to rely on Zach airing it out, it's like, okay, yeah, that will open up the run game and make things easier for Brees and stuff. And you do want to have a modern NFL offense, but it's like, what are your pass catching options too? You have Garrett, but it's not like you're trotting out a bunch of stud receivers out there either. They do need to have more of a balance. They need to be doing more play action too. Like, think about it. One of the better passing plays in this game came off a really nice play action fake to CJ Uzama. Do more fakes like that and stuff too. So more play action, especially on first down too. Teams know week in, week out, the Jets want to run the ball. They want to protect Zach Wilson. That's fine. Let them think that. Do some more play action. Going back to that Chiefs game, man, we haven't seen that level of play action since that game. Go back and do more of it. They do need to allow him to pass the ball more. He's showing more confidence. He's showing more comfortability. He is getting better. You have to put up points in this league. So do more of it. But, the idea that Zach is going to come back and, you're going to have him throw the ball as much as you want someone like Burrow or Herbert or Josh Allen to throw the ball. No, not yet.
With that also being said too, like if he's getting turnovers at a certain point, are you leaving your devil score again? Are you leaving your defense out there to dry? And with it, like it's at a certain point you can let Zach, or you want him to let it rip. But then there's also points where this game, after play action, he's staring at Jeremy Ruckert wide open in the seam, and he decides to not throw the ball, hold the ball for an extra second, step away from the throw, and then the ball drifts out there. So it's I think letting it rip is something that we could we want for Zach Wilson, but not necessarily deep either, right? Like I don't know, it's kind of hard to answer, but can't they put in some
that Zach Wilson's top 5 in terms of like lowest passer rating on deep balls? Zach Wilson did have a pretty deep ball in college, but something in the NFL, like he never really has like the touch. He's obviously has the arm strength, but something with like his touch and stuff is just off. It's gotten better. He obviously had the nice deep shot to Garrett Wilson last week against the Eagles. But his deep ball has not looked good thus far in the NFL.
Can they put both Cook and Hall in the backfield together? I know it's not really their type of offense, but I think it would confuse or cause defenses to play. Would it really?
Would you want Dalvin Cook as a lead blocker or Breece Hall for that matter? I mean,
he's not going to lead. They're not going to lead block.
Our defense is really going to be worried. Oh, they might give Cook the ball here. Oh, I'm scared of Cook. Like they're still going to be thinking, oh, the ball's going to Breece.
Yeah, give me Jeremy Ruckert on the field instead of Cook. So I'm not with that.
I don't like that.
If Shane Moore was a diva, he could separate more than our current group. Yeah, 100%. He could separate more than all of our other guys. Jordan Victor, I now know is a liar. Joe, your old setup was good too. The new one is better, but not required. The old setup was me with a green light in my thing. That was it. That's all there was. There's no decorations. There's no jet signs. There's nothing. I had to up my game up. So the game is being upped slowly, starting off with this stuff. Then it's going to be all here. All this is getting upgraded. My freaking computer is basically dead, Kyle. So I got to look into that. Okay. Baseball is July 31st, so about 100 out of 162. Yeah, okay. So football is relatively early. I don't necessarily know. I honestly have to think about that question for quite a long time to tell you exactly why I think it's earlier than some other sports. I don't know. MTO, Boy Green.
It seems like out of all sports, it should be later because one of the reasons you have a trade deadline is, there's injuries. Let's assess our team after we've gotten so many injuries and stuff. And this is the most violent game out of all. So cool if they moved it back a little bit.
Rivka says relief for me. I really needed the Jets to win that game so the big blue view people wouldn't get on my case. That, and it's like, Jalen Hyatt, everybody's hyping up this throw versus Sauce and all that stuff. Did Hyatt even have a catch? Did he have one catch? I don't think he had one catch.
He did not, no.
Okay, so like, go hype up another fucking another route.
Did any of the receivers have a catch? I mean, Saquon had a couple catches. Waller had at least one catch. I don't think Slayton had any catches. I know Wan'Dale Robinson had like a couple end arounds. He might have even caught a ball in the flat, but none of the receivers had a downfield catch. That's for sure.
Yeah. Why don't we take a wide receiver in the draft this year? We should be in the right position. So the only two things with this. One,
it is a good year for a receiver draft, is what I'm hearing.
I heard it was also a very good year for tackles, though. And my thing with this is, okay, obviously,
get Devontae Adams in a trade, draft a tackle.
You're going to get Devontae Adams or Mike Evans, in my opinion. I might even prefer Evans because you could have him for just the price it costs in free agency instead of having to trade a first-round pick and for more money. So Mike Evans might honestly be the better option, but you're probably going to get one there. And then with that being said, let's say it is Rodgers' last year. Maybe he plays maybe 2 more years. I don't know. But does he want a rookie receiver who has to build chemistry with, or just have them on the line and then dress it with a veteran in free agency? So I think Rodgers would probably prefer to have some vet receivers. At least in my opinion.
Rodgers didn't look too happy throwing in them rookies last year.
Old Setup also had the phantom black spot in the wall, which somehow just disappeared. I don't know exactly what happened to that black spot, but RIP to the black spot. When Rodgers coming back, I don't know. What do you think, Kyle? This January 7th versus the Pats.
Week 17.
Week 17 versus the Browns?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Do you want to bring him back against Myles Garrett? But I mean, I feel like if you're going to bring him back, and granted he is healthy, you don't want to do it for the playoff game. You want to do it before. And do you want to do it just 1 week before? First of all, you want to secure your spot in the playoffs, and it doesn't look like the Jets are going to win the division. So you're looking at a wild card spot, and the AFC just looks good this year. Like, look at the playoff scenario right now. Like, there's a lot better teams in the AFC, and we knew this coming in than the NFC. So, you want to do whatever you can to secure the playoff spot. So, is it going to be enough to bring them back the last week against the Patriots? I don't know. So if I have to take a guess, I'll say week 17, but maybe that's just stupid talk. Like, maybe that's just the fanboy in me speaking out. Like, oh, can he realistically come back from a torn Achilles in just less than 4 months?
And I can excuse like some of their lack of activity at the trade deadline, maybe like based on maybe their reality of like, hey, he's not going to come back this year, so why are you going to waste assets, this year when we can just use less assets to address those same positions in the offseason? I don't know. But Kyle, I got to jump off for just 2 minutes. I'm going to put up the super chat and then I'll be back. I'm going to be able to hear everything you say. But the NY Bully says good teams win by drafting, signing star players, building depth at their respective position, and getting their players to buy into their culture. Do you see this front office being able to do that?
All right. Well, thanks, NY Bully, who is pretty generous with the super chats. He's given us a lot over the years. Appreciate that. So drafting and signing star players. Well, they did re-sign Quinnen Williams, which, the Jets had let some other guys. Oh, well, you drafted Leonard Williams, and then eventually you traded him away. You drafted Jamal Adams. You traded him away. So it does seem like this front office is trying to, granted, Quinnen was not drafted by this current front office, but they did re-sign him. They did sign a star player or traded for a star player in Aaron Rodgers. In terms of depth, there's a lot more depth on this roster now than there was a couple of years ago. So it does seem like they're building a hell of a lot of depth. I mean, just look at the depth on the defensive line. You could even argue that the secondary has depth because, someone like Bryce Hall, we saw what he did as a backup coming in the Eagles game. As a depth guy, as a guy who comes in a pinch, he's not bad. Let's see. Do they have a lot of good depth on the offensive line? They do have depth in certain positions for sure. Players buying into the culture. I do think the players have bought into the culture. It's not lost on me that that Rodgers really meant what he said about wanting to play with Robert Saleh. It didn't seem like, I don't think Rodgers just would have came and played for any team. I think part of the reason Rodgers was motivated to play this year was because Green Bay, in a sense, almost kind of turned his back on him, and the way they did it, kind of not really talking to him or whatever, or making a decision while he went into the dark. I don't remember the whole timeline of things, but when I heard him talking on the McAfee show about it, it seemed like he was kind of like, oh, you guys are kind of like doubting me and people are doubting me and stuff, and you want to go with the other guy, and that kind of motivated him. But I don't think he just would have came to any team. Like, I do think the Jets genuinely impressed him when he played them last year, and when they flew out to California to meet with him in the offseason. So I do think that players are buying into the culture for sure. Obviously we had like someone like Elijah Moore or whatever, but Mike LaFleur, that was kind of like a him and Mike LaFleur problem, and kind of like a Elijah Moore diva problem. You're always going to have some players that are a little bit discontent. I guess you could even argue that like someone like Becton crying about, oh, I'm a left tackle, and Breece Hall with the 4 football emojis, is Breece buying into the culture? But that just kind of seems like that's like a league-wide thing where players kind of bitch and cry and air their emotions out publicly on social media in general.
Yeah.
But I do think that overall players do genuinely like this team and stuff, and have bought into the quote-unquote culture.
Well, we've drafted the star players, right? He's definitely done that. He's built some good depth at corner. And depth is a thing that trickles down from the top too, right? Like you get depth as time goes on. Like, you're talking about our depth this year. Hall and Eccles at corners would be starters for us for almost 10 years. Past few years, considering we had guys like Darren Walls and Marcus Williams and whoever else starting at corner. So I think he's had he's drafted some star players. I think players definitely buy into the culture. Again, depth we'll see. My biggest problem with the front office is one, free agency. I think the free agency has been generally bad so far, right? There's been a lot more misses than hits in free agency. And then the stubbornness to like veterans or just their roster. You'll have guys like Uzama not playing enough reps before Rucker can play. You have Dalvin Cook playing too many reps over Michael Carter or even Izzy at this point. You had the handling of the quarterback situation, Kyle, which we criticized for months. It was never addressed properly. I don't think quarterback was addressed properly the first year. So I think there's some stubbornness there from Douglas. And then I also think there's and stubbornness in terms of like also the fact of like, hey, these receivers are good enough. Corey Davis retires. Let's just sit on our hands. We don't really care. Let's just roll with what we have. Like that was a problem to me. So I would say stubbornness about his roster and confidence in his players. And then his free agency decisions have been bad, right? He's like a B plus GM though, right? Like I don't think he's an A. I don't think he's an F or anything like that. I think he's somewhere in the middle. I think he's like a B GM. If he fixed some of his free agency signings, I think we'd be in a lot better standing with him. So
yeah, and if Zach Wilson obviously hit, we'd think a lot higher of him as a GM. And if I think a lot of it's injuries, man. Like, so many, like, Becton going down for 2 straight years, AVT going down for 2 straight years. I mean, like that's a lot of resources in terms of draft capital was drafted into those 2 guys. And to have them miss just so many games due to injuries is obviously killer. He's tried to address the offensive line. And I think if, both players could be, Pro Bowl players year in, year out, had they been, fully healthy and stuff throughout their careers, but woulda, coulda, shoulda. Damn, something was on the top of my mind. I forgot. Anyway, keep talking, Joe.
Yeah. So that, and then in terms of the coaching, I think Salah's been fine, but there's some questions about the OC this year, obviously, and then the penalties. I blame it more on players, but it's been happening over weeks and weeks and weeks now, so that's something that coach has to address. And then Kyle, the first half handling of the clock right before the half was brutal, in my opinion. And that's a lot on Michael Carter. But you have the ball backed up into your own territory with about 50 seconds left. You run the first play, they call a timeout. Second play, Michael Carter looks like he fights to get out of bounds when the coaches should clearly emphasize to him, do not go out of bounds. And Michael Carter should know that as well. So blame the coach or the player, regardless. Bad on whoever you want to blame more for that. And then, so they don't have to call a timeout there. And then third down, you pass the ball. So it went from a good coach giving the Giants back the ball, near the 50-yard line with no timeouts and about 45 seconds to drive, for a field goal. That was supposed to be the situation. What happened was Now they have the ball with 2 timeouts and 45 seconds left or whatever it was. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? So Saleh has some management problems and some baffling decisions. Like even the offensive staff, the first game, what did Hackett come out and say? He's like, we didn't expect Parsons to be that fast. It's like, what the fuck? You didn't know Parsons was fast? Like,
you didn't know he ran like a 4.3 something at his pro day? Like,
so there's some stubbornness. Overall, again, I think they're okay. I think it's much more, the Jimmies than the X's and O's. Realistically, unless you're like an upper tier Kyle Shanahan's, Bill Belichick type of guys, like those guys make the difference. And there's a very large group in the middle that kind of just are reliant on their players. And then there's like a few really bad coaches at the bottom, the McDaniels, the Urban Meyer of a couple of years ago, the Adam Gases, whoever else. But kind of a loaded answer there, but I'm not sure. But I give them like a B. I think they're like a B group right now. And then they'll see what happens with Rodgers. But like you said, Kyle, like injuries, you can't necessarily predict injuries in the offensive line. Now, with that being said, coming into this year, you have Dwayne Brown, who's 80 years old, and Becton, who hasn't played a season in basically 2 years. So your tackle plan should have been more than, hey, let's just hope these guys are healthy, in my opinion. So I definitely have some flaws with this front office, but I don't think they're brutal either. So my Lawrence says Zach needs to improve, and I appreciate the super chat and my belief. I didn't say that. Zach needs to improve his langer of the ball. Most of his throws are rifle shots. Yeah, he definitely needs to work on his touch of the ball. Langer is I generally use that for more like layering over different coverages. So, but touch for sure. He has to work on. Rob D says if Aaron is 95% for wild card weekend, do you play him?
95%, yeah.
Not the cop out here, but what does Rodgers say? Does Rodgers say, yes, I'm playing? Then he plays. If Rodgers says, no, I'm not playing, then he does not play. And that's how the Jets are most likely going to handle it.
And Rodgers said on his last McAfee appearance that, like, if I can't move, it doesn't make sense for me to play. And I'm paraphrasing him. So,
yeah.
But I think he's 95%. Yeah, 95. I mean, we'll take it.
You risk the 5% for, like, what happens if you say, no, we want you for next year, and then he retires? Or he injures himself again. Like at that point, your wild card weekend, you're playing him if he's 95%. If he feels like he can go, so it's really dependent on him.
For a guy who was like quote 95% done when he went into the dark room, for him to have a torn Achilles and then for him to have like another catastrophic injury, like in the same season where he miraculously came back after rehabbing so hard for several months, you'd have to think that guy's like, okay, it's time to hang it up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Kyle. So we pretty much caught up to the chat. So we'll go through the defense really, really quickly. So we'll end at 9. We'll keep our 2-hour thing. So offense, we hit on the offense, defensive line. We hit on it, right? Q has been very, 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 very good. He's just not been elite. He had quite a few nice plays in this game. JJ had 4 or 5 pressures. He had 2 sacks. Quentin Jefferson had quite a few really impressive run stuffs in this one, and that was something that
they started playing him at nose after what's his face went down.
That was something I brought up in the review. I was like, I'm glad I kind of mentioned that Quentin Jefferson. I think he was better in the run game than some people realize, and he's been better in the run game than some people realize. So credit to him, credit to Q.
A good signing.
Credit to Huff, credit to JJ, the linebackers. Quincy, great game. But, dude, if he got that penalty at the end for jumping in Saquon's face, I was going to fucking lose it.
Which probably, honestly, the refs must have missed. Because I think if the refs saw that, they would have thrown the flag.
You have to go back and watch the broadcast of that because he did it. It wasn't for 2 seconds. It was like 5 seconds.
No, I saw you throw the clip up, or somebody saw. I think it was you who threw the clip up on Twitter.
It might have been me. I don't know. I don't think it was. But
then maybe you commented on somebody who did, because I'm pretty sure I saw it through you.
Mosley had a good game. He had that one play where he took on a guard on duo and took out Saquon Barkley. He also, Kyle, I don't know if you remember the play specifically, but he had a play where he had the pass deflection where Huff was 1-on-1 with Barkley. If that ball is thrown,
he might go to
probably a touchdown. It's probably a touchdown. And if not, you're talking about them being in the red zone with a field goal, potentially being easy there. But that was a massive pass deflection by Mosley on that play.
Oh, yeah.
So
you could just see, like, from the way Saquon is jumping up and down afterwards, that he knew he could have took that to the house.
Anything I want to add?
By the way, he had a great game, Saquon. The way that he was jumping in and out of cuts, man. Like I can't say I watched a ton of him, but like he's really kind of like smooth and shifty, and like it's kind of weird to describe how he ran in this game. but he impressed me for sure.
Anything you want to add to the front seven, Kyle?
The only thing I'll say is regarding what you brought up about JJ, strongly criticized him. I saw that Nania put out some of the stats about what JJ did like weeks 1 to 4 versus what he's done the past 3-4 weeks or whatever. And it's remarkably different. And there might be some people who eventually want to like maybe shove this in my face. Oh, you doubted Jermaine Johnson and stuff. It's like, hey, listen, I knew he had talent. I kind of like say it's like my criticism of him was definitely warranted. Like he was very quiet early on, and he was very quiet this season, kind of like Quinnen Williams was for a while. But I'm very happy to see him, playing a little bit better, and he's doing exactly what we said he needs to do: be more decisive, stop dancing, just recognize what your strengths are and use them. Mm-hmm. He's been doing that, so good job, JJ.
Yeah, and moving back a little bit, safeties, dude. Whitehead had another missed tackle.
That was bad, game. Really bad.
I'm trying to think what play was that exactly. It was relatively early, right? Where Whitehead missed a tackle. It was on Tyrod, right? Like Tyrod just completely cooked him in the open field. He barely touched him, and then Tony Adams had another bad missed tackle. It was on Saquon, so it's a little bit more forgivable.
And then the DeVito touchdown.
Oh my God, dude, that one. He was so blind to where he was with that ball. He was staring at the running back for like 8 seconds too long, and then like he had that oh shit moment where he looked to his right.
Yeah. And I see why Bryce, biting on the dive, like, okay, Saquon, but like, what's his face should have been there to stuff DeVito, Tony Adams, and that was ugly.
Jets defense was only a B because to allow 200 yards. Yeah, I said that on Twitter.
Completely agree, Harold.
I put that up, and I was obviously being a little bit like negative. I was like, this guy sucks. This guy sucks. I'm like, the Jets defense, for all the credit it gets, allowing 200 yards to a team who was basically running a 1950s offense
with a bunch of backups on the offensive line. They didn't even. I thought Andrew Thomas was supposed to play in the game. He didn't.
Yeah, and the fact that they came out after halftime and drove the ball down your throats for a touchdown. Now, was that because of Michael Clemens' jump offside? Yes. Was that aided by Jermaine Johnson not getting them off the field on third down because he wanted to jump over a human being and spear DeVito in the head? Yeah, that's what led to that. But I agree with Harold in terms of the run defense was not as impressive as it should have been, considering the fact that they could not throw the ball and they would not throw the ball. So I was a little bit disappointed in the run defense from the Jets. So I'm with Harold.
It really does make you want to pull your hair out, wondering why can the run defense be as good as they were against the Eagles with that offensive line, and then the very next week they're not nearly as good. And I know Al Woods went down, and that was a huge part. Like, he's not a guy you can easily replace. By the way, speaking of depth, I'm actually, the Hard Knock star himself, Tanzel Smart. Again, a guy who's on the practice squad. That's an example, NY Bully, of depth. Like, this is a guy who I feel like, to come in on obvious rundowns, in an obvious running situation, he's not going to give you anything but this guy, he's going to bring, lunch pail every day. He's going to give you everything he has on a down. And I think he's going to be pretty solid in the run game, Tanzel Smart. So, he's obviously a downgrade from Al Woods, clearly, but that's when you talk about depth.
I'm not sure if I'm taking this. I don't know if I'm just not digesting this right, but you could also play the what if game with Pinnock in the film review. I'm not sure what that means. I criticized Pinnock that one that Brees touchdown. He missed the tackle where he did not wrap up.
That was awful
wrap up. So I was talking shit. I was like, Pinnock,
he didn't even wrap up. He didn't even wrap up. But like sometimes, like you throw a really good shot, like you throw a really good shoulder shot, and the guy just bounces off. Like that was all kinds of weak. Did he even contact Brees? Like that was a weak tackle where he didn't even wrap.
Yeah, just
and by the way, Pinnock, a lot of the criticism, Pinnock was drafted to be a corner. I can't remember. Like, did the Jets mostly keep him at safety when he was here with us? I'm trying to remember, or was he converted to safety when he went to the Giants? Because Pinnock, his film was fun in some ways. Like he had some really nice moments in press. But he definitely did not have any makeup recovery speed. Like he got beat for some long touchdowns in his college film.
He was either dominant or really shitty. Like there was no in between with his film. It was either really, really, just so volatile. Corners all fine. They didn't really do much of anything. You had Michael Carter II, who had that really nice play on that fade where they threw it out of the end zone. He played that really, really well. Square hips, patient, all that, which was good.
First drive of the game.
Yeah. Past that, anything else to mention?
There's not really much to say because they didn't really have to do much.
Dude, Zerline 2 for 2. That last kick, I don't know if it was tipped, Kyle. I couldn't tell from the review, but the way that hooked, I think maybe it was pretty close, but I thought he missed that. Like
I thought he missed it.
Dude, I was like, you motherfucker. Like really, whatever. Like probably get the ball back, but I bugged out. I did not think he made that. So credit to him. Credit to Will McDonald and Brant Boyer and him jumping over the line there and hoping or potentially making Gano miss that kick and pull it. And then obviously, dude, Morstead, right? Like it wasn't even punts that hit the 15 and rolled to the 5 where they can
they bounced back.
Dude, it was like land at the 6, stop at the 7, or land at the 6 and roll out at the 3.
What a joke PFF is. How could you look at that game and grade him poorly?
Kyle, that's all you need to know about PFF. You don't have to say anything else. Thomas Morstead graded
that was one of the best games I've ever seen from a punter.
And it was like a below average to an average game for a punter that they rated it. And then there was also, I think Nani did the article on this recently, but it's like there was some running back who got 3 carries for 12 yards and did like nothing impressive on those runs. And they gave him a higher grade than Breece Hall the week he had like 190 all-purpose yards, whatever it was. It's like, what do they do? So that's just bad. But credit to Thomas Morstead. I thought you could tell a little bit in this game that the Gunners were not Irv Charles and Hardy because they had quite a few returns on the Jets, which I did not appreciate.
But what's his face? Surratt did have a really nice tackle.
I don't specifically remember, to be completely transparent. But
it was one of the earlier punts. Surratt had a huge tackle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he had a couple of 40-yard punts when he really needed distance, but the 3 punts inside the 5-yard line don't offset, him not kicking it a little bit far. I don't know. I couldn't give 2 shits less about PFF. I really don't care. So, and then past that, coaching. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to mention from this Giants game, Kyle?
No.
Yeah. Okay. I mentioned the empty on 3rd and 1, which really, really pissed me off. We mentioned Zach. Okay, so we'll move on to the Chargers game. Oh, yeah, we only have a couple of minutes now. The Chargers, thoughts on – let's just do their offense versus our defense first. We'll do their defense versus our offense, and we'll kind of move on.
You said their offense first. Okay, Herbert's a stud. You do wonder about the clutch factor with him. One of the best arms in the NFL, does have good athleticism too. He's not the best runner in the world, but he can move. Eckler, very good running back.
That's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, and he's a multi-dimensional back too. So he's one of these guys who, you forget about him, and then all of a sudden, he's catching a check down or catching a screen and taking it for some serious yardage. Are all the receivers healthy? Like, is Mike Williams playing?
No, he's out for the year.
He's out for the year.
Okay. He's been out for at least 3 or 4 weeks, I believe.
Okay. So Keenan is still a stud as far as in terms of, route running technician.
Quinn Johnson really hasn't done much, I don't believe.
Yeah. I like some things on his college tape. I have no clue who their tight ends are. Offensive line. So
Is it Gerald Everett, maybe?
Maybe. Offensive line, and I don't have the R-Lads depth chart up, and I don't know if you do, but do you have that offensive line on you handy? Should I pull it up?
That's what I'm pulling up right now.
Pull it up and screen share that.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously they have Northwestern University left tackle, short arms guy. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name. He's good. Although he had a season-ending injury last year, so I'm not exactly sure how he's been playing this year. Any day now, this can pull up.
I can see it on my screen.
See it now. I can now see it. It just took a little while. All right, let me make it. Okay. Rashawn Slater, Zion Johnson. Okay, so that was kind of a surprise first round pick that they had. I have no idea who Will Clapp is. I don't know who the right guard is, and I don't know who the right tackle is. I don't know if I should know who these guys are. But,
I've heard of Trey Pipkins. I don't know. Maybe he's in the draft like last year or two, but I know Zion Johnson from the draft.
Well, apparently he was a 3rd round pick from 2019. Pipkins.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone has any info on a lot of these guys, but I heard Zion Johnson had a pretty good rookie year from what I heard. Again, I don't watch much Chargers film. So the offensive line doesn't look super impressive. You said that you're really scared of Mr. Eckler. Do you want to elaborate on that? Oh, by the way, Josh Palmer, he's having a good year from what I'm hearing. Is that true or false?
I think somebody just said that that Palmer got hurt. So I don't know if he's hurt for this week or if he's gonna stay.
He would probably be red if he was hurt. Yeah. Gerald Everett, being that he's red, that seems like there's a decent chance he might not play in this game.
Yeah, tight ends, Donald Parham, Stone Smart. Okay, we're not really scared of those guys.
I could say Isaiah Spiller. I remember you and Scott Mason told me to watch some Isaiah Spiller film when we were talking about potential running back draft targets for the Jets. I was not a fan.
Yeah, you didn't like how high waisted he was or something. But yeah, Eckler is a monster, and it's really just about the fact that hey, the Jets they can struggle with screens, they can struggle with really good running backs. They have some safeties right now who can't necessarily tackle, and you have Eckler, who every single time I watch that guy play football, he's making a guy or two miss after just like a quick check down. So I think they may legitimately isolate him on Mosley or Quincy Williams and see him carve them up a little bit in terms of the receiving game. So that's a little bit of my concern. Herbert is obviously really good. He can make any throw.
Comment off the screen just so I can see the whole thing.
Oh, sorry. He can make any throw in the world, but then there's also times where he'll just chuck up a deep ball into double coverage if he's pressured. So I think Herbert is good. He's not the best when pressured, at least from my understanding. Yeah, you have to be concerned about Allen. Now, past that, Quentin Johnson, Josh Palmer, again, nothing really to write home about. So this offense is Keenan Allen, if they can isolate him in the slot, but then even if they isolate him in the slot, it's Michael Carter II there. So
Keenan is not explosive. Like you're not worried that Keenan is going to catch a ball and then take it 50 yards to the house.
No, he's just a guy who will get like 3 35s in a row.
He's going to move the chains frustratingly on third down conversions.
Yeah. So not overly concerned. Now their defense, Kyle.
By the way, I remember Daniel Jeremiah not too long ago hyping up Thule. I don't know how you pronounce that last name. On here, he's yeah. So I saw Jeremiah put some tape out of him. I was impressed from that very, very little bit of tape I saw. So another guy who can maybe get to the quarterback, which is banged up offensive line is a little concerning.
And I don't know which one it is, but I know one of these guys has like 4 or 5 sacks. One of their defensive linemen, I think it's Nick Williams, but I could be wrong. And then past that, you have Joey Bosa, you have Khalil Mack on their defensive line or their rushers. Eric Kendrick, obviously he's dropped off a little bit, but I still think he's at least all right. Kenneth Murray, I know, is a struggling young linebacker, but he has plenty of speed. I know that they're getting abused, I think, in coverage though with their linebackers, which is a little bit surprising with Kendricks. And then their secondary, obviously Derwin James is a stud. He's an absolute stud.
I always thought he was better than Jamal Adams.
Yeah. Their corners, Michael Davis, Jasir Taylor, Dean Leonard. Do you know any of these guys, Kyle?
No. Obviously Asante Samuel Jr. I think he's kind of like literally 2.
We hate his dad, right? Yeah, his dad. Yeah. What did his dad do in the offseason? What was he saying? He was on the train.
He's better than Darrell Revis because of interceptions and stuff.
Yeah, and he took the side of a homeboy from Seattle. The corners.
Sure.
The corner. No.
Tariq Woolen.
Yeah, Woolen versus Sauce. I think he was on the Woolen thing because he said production always matters more or whatever, and then whatever. He just seems like a douche who wanted some attention. But so we hate Asante Samuel, so we need to score against him. But I'm worried. The thing I'm worried about with this defensive line is this team is the defensive line, as I said, obviously. Bosa, Mack, and then one of these guys has a couple of sacks this year, so I'm concerned with the interior of the defensive line, and even Becton, who struggled last week, and Max Mitchell, who's generally a struggling player, or not a plus average player. So how do they handle those two guys? I'm not so sure.
Right. Morgan Fox, when we played him a couple years ago in Carolina, Zach's rookie year, I remember him having a pretty good game. So
so
not a bad player there.
Now, with all that being said, I know we don't really do game recaps. Go to CYJ Pod; they do like full recaps where they actually like look up numbers and stuff of the team. But Kyle, you're going to this game. because you got free tickets. So the people did criticize you didn't want to spend
Hey,
money.
you
So
didn't
of
say
course,
that.
so of course you get free tickets. So you have to go to the game because otherwise you wouldn't pay. So this game that you're going to be at, Kyle, what's the score? What do you think's going to happen?
I think the Jets are going to win this game. I think the Chargers are one of those teams that consistently disappoint, especially in primetime situations and, when it matters most. I think they have some really good pieces, but their coach, he got a lot of hype. I know he was a Jets coaching candidate, but he seems to make some really questionable decisions too. I'm going to say the Jets win a close one. It just seems like the Jets, every win they're going to have is probably going to be a close one unless they play a straight up garbage team. But I'll say the Jets win, and I'll say the score will be. I don't want to give the Chargers too many touchdowns because I feel like the Jets' red zone defense is pretty solid. So what score could I give where the Chargers don't have more than 2 touchdowns? I'll say that the Chargers score 23 and the Jets score. Do I want to say the Jets score 3 touchdowns?
You're not going to say 24 3 touchdowns.
I'll say the Jets score, I don't know, 26. I don't even know how that's possible. The Jets scored 26.
Well, that would be 2 touchdowns and 4 field goals.
Yeah.
We're moving the ball in that game. Jesus, Kyle.
You're talking about how this defense is giving up a gazillion pass yards and stuff. So
yeah, I'm just concerned if we
can actually
get to passing. I'm gonna go 20-16 Jets. Okay. 20-16. 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals. We hold the Chargers to a touchdown and 3 field goals. I really hope they can fucking win this game. Monday Night Football. There's going to be a ton of energy there because there's like 4 Chargers fans in the world. So it should be 95% Jets fans at the minimum. So coming off of that win, going into Vegas with a very real chance of being 6-3 before you enter the back-to-back games against the Bills and the Dolphins, and you hope to take one. Should be exciting times. If they lose this game, then Raiders is kind of a must-win going into the Bills and the Dolphins weeks. So this is kind of this is a it's a game if they really want to be taken seriously, they fucking win this game because not only do they have to get into the playoffs just based on the record, Kyle, but they also have to have better records than teams who are also of a similar ilk. And the Chargers right now are 3-4. So if you lose to this team, now they have the tiebreaker with the same record in the same conference as you. Yeah. Not ideal. So this is a huge game for later in the season. So let's freaking win it. We'll get a quick question in or a couple of questions. Mike, do you think Sauce or Reed is the better matchup for Allen? To me, Sauce is the better player, so it's Sauce. And it's really because also Reed is a guy who I think is a little bit jumpy and tends to open up really, really quickly. So if you have a guy like Allen who is going to get him to be able to open up quickly.
You're going to see a lot of Michael Carter, too, against Allen, though.
Yeah. But I'd rather have Sauce because he has that makeup speed. He's an elite athlete, where Reed is a good athlete, not an elite athlete. But Parham is a 7 foot tall and above average tight end. Okay, yeah. So maybe he is, and that's just transparency. I don't really know a lot about other teams. Like I do, but I don't. I don't know. Dylan Parham is having a really good season. Which actually, let's see. What can you look up Dylan Parham's stats for this year, Kyle? I'm legitimately curious to see if NY Bully's blowing smoke up my ass. Because if he's above average and he's a red zone threat and he has 1 touchdown, 5 catches, 70 yards, I'm be mad at you. So.
All right, Dylan Parham. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong Dylan Parham. I'm looking at some offensive line guy. It's not. How do you spell his first name?
Oh, is it Dylan? I said Dylan, didn't I? It's Donald Parham. Yeah, I was thinking. I was thinking Dylan because that was an offensive lineman from the draft like a year or 2 ago, right? I just got here. I never know when you're going to start. Typically, it's 6 or 7. It's definitely not 8 or 9 o'clock.
Right. Donald Parham on the season has 13 catches for 104 yards and 4 touchdowns.
And my bully, what is that above average? Now you could be like
104. Hey. I mean, he's definitely a red zone threat for sure. 4 touchdowns, but only 104 yards. Conklin has more than 104 yards, right?
He's like 300 nearly, right?
Yeah.
Let's say
300. But he is 6'8", though. Let's see.
Tyler Conklin.
I'm looking it up too.
He is 227. Okay, 227. So let's see if there's anything else. Nose Kill says, fun fact, Thule means fire and finish. He's fire. He's Thule. Who's Thule?
I think he's talking about the player we were just talking about that Daniel Jeremiah was hyping up.
The corners are not good. Sauce good against everyone. Well, I saw Bryce Hall play pretty well against Allen. And yeah, he did. That's actually right. Now Allen had some catches against Hall, but he was really, really tight on a lot of those receptions. But Bryce Hall, like Keenan Allen is his type of matchup because Bryce Hall's a guy.
Mike Williams had a big game in 2020 for the Chargers in that game, right? Like he had some huge catch at the end of the game. It's a close game. I'm trying to remember who got cooked on that big catch. It's going back so many years now. I'm forgetting.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm picking. So we have Rivka says Jets 20, Charger 17. Harold has Jets 28-17. Career day, 320 yards and 3 touchdowns. This is my bold take. We'll come back to it next week. 320 and 3 touchdowns. Remember that, Kyle. 31-27 Jets from NY Bully, which is quite a lot of offense. That would be shocking to us, Kyle. 31 points, unless it's like 2 pick sixes, which is possible, right? Because we did score 31 against the Broncos, right? It was right? I think it was 31. Does anyone know what's the weather going to be like on Monday? Somebody said before, like I like the rain games and all that stuff. I'm so fucking sick of going to rain games for the Jets the last 2 years. Can it please be a nice, like brisk, like 60 degrees out, no wind, just nice night? I can't do the rain anymore. So please, Donald Parma.
I mean, listen, I want it to snow when Miami comes to town, but aside from that,
I'm completely with that. But I rather I'm cool with snow games. But
I'm tired of seeing shitty Jets offense. So whatever we can
rain
to get some more, guys moving quickly and some more touchdowns, please.
We had one good rain game, and that's with Mike White, and he's gone now. So as long as it doesn't rain, it's actually better. A whole lot of smoke, Joe. Fucking 100 yards of offense. Okay, Kyle. So I appreciate the chat. I will see you guys. Well, my film review for the Giants game should be dropping tomorrow morning. I will see you back on the stream next week. I don't think there's going to be any improvements behind me for the next couple of weeks, but we'll keep working. I appreciate your guys' super chats, which we had 11 today, which is quite a lot for us.
Yes, thank you.
Some of those going directly into the fund to get me software to draw on the screen. So I appreciate you guys. Kyle, any last words?
Nope. Thanks. And whoever's coming on Monday, stop by the tailgate. Joe, it's at J1, you said?
J1.